Welcome everybody back to Newell Valorant Varsity. This is a very, very important week as today we will be watching the upper bracket final and find out which of these two teams will make the grand finals in 2 weeks' time. With me today for this very important journey, I have Hazza. Hello, Hazza. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, Hannah, mate. To be honest, it's been a while since we've been on the casting desk,
It has.
together. But I'm absolutely, words can't really describe how I'm feeling right now. I'm very
Yeah.
much looking forward to this upper bracket final match between Birmingham Bulls and SG Bandits. Two very strong teams in their own
Yeah.
right, and I think it's fair to say two teams which have sort of come into their element as these tournaments have progressed over recent splits. Increasing in the amount of success that they've had and really developing as a unit, I suppose. And that's the magic of the uni scene and of Null. These are really a proving grounds for these teams, and well, they've shown a lot in these last few months or so.
They certainly have. I mean, SG Bandits came out of the round robin, top of the scoreboard. I think they were 9-3, I want to say, or 9-2
Mm,
overall, which is pretty pretty strong scoreline. Birmingham Bulls just behind in second place, 8-3 overall. And when those two teams met in the head to head, it was actually the overtime game, 16-14, the favor of SG.
mm.
So we couldn't really ask for two tighter teams here. They're both on a very similar level if we just judge it from the round robin format. But they've had a few games in playoffs now. I believe both teams have played a best of one and a best of three so far in round one and round two of the playoffs. This is obviously the upper bracket final. So we'll have to see how these teams have developed through those games. You can see that SG Bandits 2-0ing Clark Kent, which was a very, very strong roster, and actually was one of the only teams, I believe, to hand SG Bandits a defeat during the round
Mm.
robin. So, clearly they have improved since that round robin stage with a very swift 2-0. Birmingham Bulls struggling a little more, going to the full three maps, but still making it here to the UB finals, which,
Mm.
again, it's anyone's game.
Mm. Yeah, it really is. And I mean, like you said, they went the distance having to play all three maps in that scenario. But even if one of these teams ends up losing today, and one of them will, there is still the
Yep.
opportunity of that lower bracket run, lower bracket finals to make their way onto those grand finals, like you said, in 2 weeks' time. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. They're going to want to put their
Hmm.
best foot forward, though, and make today count. It's the perfect opportunity to progress in the playoffs. But yeah, like you said as well, these teams, they've played against each other before. So there is that prerequisite there. It's just going to be a case of how they decide to approach it. It's a best of three as well. So, in terms of the stakes, there is that little bit more of a mental mind game that goes on between the two sides in terms of picks, in terms of the maps
Hmm.
that you're, having success on, the ones you leave out of the pool if you've got a pocket pick to try and work with. Not to mention within the rounds themselves. Valorant being such a momentum based game, it's going to be important that they keep themselves in this one for the long run, really.
Yeah, one other point just to quickly mention about the format, of course, is that the winner of the upper bracket finals does go into that grand final with a map advantage.
Okay.
So there is quite an inherent advantage, of course, going through the
Yeah.
upper bracket. So although these teams do have that second chance going through that lower bracket final, you would quite like to start off a grand final a full map up
Yeah.
because obviously it's a
Yeah.
best of five. Again, as you say, it's a marathon, and that final is a long one. You can have a maximum of 4 games there. And just starting a map up gives you that breathing room that I think these teams would quite like to have.
Mm.
Also gives you a week off. Once you play the game today, you've got next week off. I'd hope that they'd be scrimming and practicing because of course there's that grand prize at stake. But I'm sure they'll probably just take the day off and have a bit of a chill, knowing that they don't have to
Yeah.
play any Valorant on that day, while the lower bracket will still be grinding out those games. But certainly two teams that have the potential of being our champions. I've got to say, SG Bandits, in my opinion, just looking at their round robin format scores as well as how well they've just done in the last sort of couple of weeks of the varsity playoffs. Definitely, I think the favourites going into this,
Mhm.
although I think that's only by a small margin.
Yeah, and I mean, in their semi-finals as well, beating Clark Kent 2-0 is a bit of a statement piece as
Yeah.
well. I think it's fair to say Clark Kent were the 2021 summer finalists, I believe. So, certainly some pedigree that is brought to the table. And if you're able to do away with them in such a straight up fashion, then yeah, you put yourself in a great position in this upper bracket final. Like you said, getting that little bit of extra headroom really does, put the mind to rest, I suppose, when it comes to that best of five later on in the competition, but can't get too far ahead of yourselves. And they've got to really work out what they want to go for today. So maybe if you want to talk a little bit, we can maybe touch on some of these map picks before we get into the veto stage. So we maybe have an idea of what these teams will likely want to pick into. I think for the most part, if we're looking at the uni scene in general, the maps that teams really favor would probably be, Ascent, Icebox, maybe Haven, those kinds of puggy, more open maps. And then I guess that begs the question, if you're going to be picking into one of those maps as the ones that you really want to play straight away, are you maybe losing some kind of an advantage there? Or is that really, just the way that it plays out on the day?
I'm not sure. Obviously, in the UniCS scene, there's a very large map disparity. I mean, I think not last week because obviously with the riot bug last week there was no broadcast or games, but the week before we
Mhm.
had a couple of Ice games back to back, and the teams do play it in a very similar style with
Yeah.
very similar comps. There's a little bit of innovation in places with Chamber in place of a KO, or bit of swap around.
Mm,
But realistically, I think it does kind of come down to that puggy style and how well the teams have prepped this kind of stuff.
mm.
I do like to see a bit of innovation, and obviously with the recent sort of, I say recent, it's been a few weeks now
Yeah.
with the controller shift up. It's been a lot more fun to watch
Mm,
these games when there isn't always an Astra. When you've got, um, well, a lot of Brimstone. I mean, it's not a surprise considering how
mm,
strong it is in the meta, but it's really nice to see a bit of Brimstone, even a bit of Omen coming out occasionally, and that adds a little bit of variety to this, and maybe can be the tipping point in some of these games. Again, this being the upper bracket final, maybe teams want to save some strats. They don't want to give out too much. Maybe they don't want to pick outside of the maps that they've already shown, so that when they do get to that lower bracket final, or even that grand final, they can throw a spanner in the works or something. But again, maybe they are desperate to get that round lead, and they will go for something inventive, which is what I'm hoping
mm.
for, because very important game, a lot at stake. Go big or go home.
Certainly. And I mean, looking at the controller players that we have here, I think one of them, Flip, on the side of Birmingham Bulls, is very capable of flexing onto, Brim Viper. And then you have Melon as well, who could play, Astra or Viper. So really just having that depth to your pool, your agent pool across the board is really big, because it means that, you have more opportunities to try out some of these different comps, get into the heads of your opponents as to how you really want to try and set up. I know before Astra was a staple, everyone was playing her across the board, but
Yeah,
now it gives you that little bit of extra room to try and experiment. Like you said, you now can maybe double up on some of these controllers. You bring Viper to the table, who obviously isn't as strong with the changes to her toxins as well, and an Astra, just to have that little bit of extra longevity, but still bring forward so much utility. Brimstone with the Stim Beacon only has one now available to them, and that
it's
cost
true.
is increased from 100 to 200 credits. But still, just great if you're the kind of team that wants to stack up as five, not really put too much thought behind it, and go rushing straight in. So a bit of flexibility to these teams is what will really help them out in this series. And because we're going to be going to a variety of different maps, you really need to have that about you as well.
Yeah, one other person to point out on the side, or the opposite side here, SG Bandits is 4FN. Definitely a player
Yeah.
that, even on the broadcast days, we've seen them absolutely pop off, become very aggressive on that controller. Usually, so on Breeze, for example, they're the one that usually picks up the Viper. They play very aggro towards Metal and out of a main, going very aggressive and just taking any fight they can. Really strong at selling fakes. And at getting entries, even though they're on that controller. So definitely
Mm.
the individual to watch out for, I would say, on the SG side. There's also a couple other, well, pretty impressive players there. One to also point out, Deviates. We saw some crazy Rays plays earlier on in the season from that individual. Hopefully, they bring out that agent again today, but we'll just have to wait and see when we do get to the maps. But there's certainly some big names in the UK Valorant scene that are going to be playing in this game, and we'll have to see how they match
Mm.
up, because at the end of the day, again, as you said earlier, only one winner. Somebody has got to go and make that lower bracket game happen.
Yeah.
and it definitely could be either of these teams. Definitely SG Bandits coming out top of the Swiss side, or not the Swiss side, the round robin side, expecting a win, but it
Mm,
could go either way. And Birmingham Bulls have shown an impressive season as well. So I'm not going to count them out just yet. And as you say, they've got those strong controller players. If they want to bring out double
mm,
controller, something a little spicy, just to put SG Bandits on the back foot,
mm.
that could work very, very well for them.
Yeah, and I mean, even to add to that, when I was looking at this lineup of SG Bandits players, it must be said they do have a very offensive lineup of agents that they like to try and play
Yeah.
into. Just barely glancing at some of these tracker.gg. I mean, obviously, that doesn't tell the full story. I'm not going to be, diving through their rank games to see what picks they're going for, but there's a lot of Chamber, a lot of Jet, and a lot of Reina. The three, main suspects when it comes to getting a pick and then flying out there as quickly as possible. That is really what makes them the sort of premier tier of duelists in this game at the moment. Chamber obviously having the Rendezvous, the Jet Tailwind, and the Reina Dismiss, all behave a little bit differently in the way that you set them up, but effectively have that same use. And all of these players love to try and play into them. So I really wouldn't be surprised if we saw some kind of a double duelist comp coming out. I
Yeah.
know on Icebox, for example, that was always the standard, having a Jet and having a Reina. But
Mhm.
as you mentioned earlier, we do now see that Reina dropping out a little bit and teams wanting to flex Chamber in instead because they bring a little bit better in terms of utility, and also having that tour de force as a weapon that you can slap on the table in an eco can be great to bolster some thrifty rounds as well.
Yeah, and also one of the picks that's become a lot more prominent in recent times, because that chamber is being flexed in quite a lot, is just picking
Mm,
up the KO.
yeah.
Because although that tour de force is absolutely huge, costs a lot of ultimate orbs, and the fact is, one KO knife, that's gone. You can take the site. The
Mm,
chamber's got to fall back. Nothing they can do unless, hopefully, it's a Byron and they've got some kind of a vandal, some
mm,
sort of weapon in their offhand. But definitely KO, one of those kind of a counter pick, almost a hard counter towards chamber, especially. You get the knife for free in the first round. The chamber, you can get it straight onto them. They can no longer use that handgun, and suddenly a lot less scary of an agent when you
mm,
take away pretty much all their abilities with a single well placed KO knife. So I would like to see KO today. I think as well, KO's flashes are next to none. I think.
mm,
I mean, Phoenix is barely seen in university or even pro play at any point. But the Reina Lear can very easily be shot out. Does
mm,
make a very noticeable effect before it does pop. The KO right click, incredibly, incredibly powerful, and with a player that knows how to pop flash correctly,
mm.
can be very, very dangerous.
Certainly can. I mean, like you said about Phoenix, that's an agent which we've seen completely plummet out of usage
Yeah.
whatsoever. I think there's certainly some need for maybe not a full scale rework, but definitely a closer look at some of those abilities to change them. I guess Phoenix as an agent does really fit into that initiator role, I suppose, and in many ways sort of mirrors different parts of kits that we see on other agents. That flame wall obviously been there since the beta, but now Neon getting a little bit of love in pro play
Yeah.
actually with the fast lane, I believe it's called. That is arguably a bit better of an bit of utility to be bringing forward. Phoenix
Hmm.
ult giving you that extra life. You could argue KO's null command works in a similar fashion.
It's just better.
What we're really seeing, yeah, is initiators becoming so important in the meta, and a lot of double initiator, double controller comps, I suppose, really stacking up in the way that teams want to try and play it, because ultimately it is a utility based game, and sometimes you get way more value out of that than purely having duelists on the board to try and deal with these engagements, these first engagements. So I mean, also as well, we've seen from Riot recently, they've teased a new agent who is
Yeah.
also supposedly an initiator. So, I mean, that is the direction that it looks like the meta is heading in. I know the developers before as well said they thought it was shifting into more of a controller based meta, but I think, yeah, duelists maybe not getting included as much, because even with agents like Chamber, the way that they can be played so offensively, I suppose, also lends itself to that aggressive nature. So they're not really getting that same kind of love, I suppose.
100%, but also, try telling that to my ranked solo queue. All my teammates want to pick all the duelists, and unfortunately, there's not much you can say to dissuade them on that point.
No.
Although I will point out that definitely, probably the scariest thing to run into no matter what rank you're playing at. Sky KO, if they're comboing up, getting that knife on top of you and then
Mm,
flashing you off, what do you do? There's absolutely no response to that. The Sky ult into KO knife or KO flashes, it all just combos
mm,
so well. If you can forego that second duelist or that second controller, or
mm,
even your sentinel, to be honest, to make that sacrifice and then have those two initiators, that can be very very powerful if played correctly. So another option we could
mm.
be seeing tonight. Um, we are starting to get the map bans come on in and the players are in the lobby. So hopefully we'll be in the game very, very shortly. And again, this is a best of three, so potentially up to three maps here tonight. And the
Mm.
last time these teams played, it did go to overtime. So nothing is off the cards tonight, Hazard. We could be in for a long one.
Certainly could. I mean, in terms of maps, we did speak a little bit earlier about what we expect to see. It would be interesting if either of these sides had some kind of a pocket pick, but I think in the way that Valorant is, because it is such a new game in comparison to other tactical FPS, it means that as each of these new maps makes its way into the pool, these teams start to learn them, they get more of a feel for them. And for the most part, the maps that people don't want to play on are more of a shared interest between them. So it's likely that we most probably it'll be most probable that we won't see Fracture, for example,
Yeah.
unless both of these teams feel comfortable in it. Breeze not even maybe getting as much attention as I think it deserves. I really like Breeze as a map. I was
Yeah.
maybe, a little bit attested to it when it first came out, but it has sort of grown on me. I like those longer sight lines. It's perfect for playing a jet into or a chamber. So it has a great opportunity for these teams to really get aggressive. And like I said, those long sight lines really favoring the gun duels, which is what you sometimes want to see instead of maps like Bind, where I can remember when it was like unrated queue only for Breeze ages ago, and I'd played like 10 games of Breeze in a row. You go into a normal matchup on Bind, and suddenly it feels like you're in a shoebox because everything is so much more condensed in the way that it's set out. And that does reflect in the agents as well. Like Raze, for example, will get way more action on Bind and Split than she would, for example, on I was gonna say Fracture, but actually you do see Raze on Fracture sometimes. But Breeze, for example, those more open maps.
Yeah, you got to say the raised paint shells, they hurt a lot harder when there's nowhere to run. And
Yeah.
if you're walking up a short, for example, on bind, there's nothing really you can do. Whereas if you're out in the open and breeze,
Mm.
I mean, you barely even glance at the paint shells. You just know that they're very, very unlikely to do anything but cursory damage to you. So definitely an agent that is unlikely to be seen on breeze unless someone's got some really crazy tech up their sleeves. But yeah, another one of those agents that could come out. Deviates is a fan
Mm.
of it when they can play it. Have to see what the maps are. We are starting to get the map picks in as well. I can see at
Hmm.
least a little bit of a teaser that Ascent and Haven have been banned. So,
Yeah.
a couple of the maps there that we talked about earlier on as being, maybe played a lot by the uni scene. Definitely Ascent is one that you can see
Mm.
picked quite a lot, but already gone out. And it looks as if, yeah, Bind is going to be our map one, Split going to be our map two, and we are still waiting on that
Yeah.
decider. But what do you think already? Two of the OG maps,
Well,
Hazard. We've got, two of the original
yeah.
three,
Yeah, we're missing out on Haven. Not going to get that one. And
unfortunately.
well, Ascent did come in version 1.0, so I suppose that one doesn't quite make the
Doesn't
cut.
count.
Doesn't count, yeah. But I mean, really, looking at the maps here, this is maybe slightly surprising, I suppose. I guess these are maps, when they've been in the pool so long, teams understand exactly how they work. They'll be perfectly prepared for them. And as we were speaking about agents, Raze is going to have a lot of fun on both of these, to be
Yeah.
honest. So if Deviate does want to try and pick into that, that could potentially bring huge ramifications in terms of value to what they're able to get out of it. But yeah, I mean, both of these maps really, you can get pretty creative with the agents that you want to bring forward. I don't think it's necessarily leaning more towards one meta than the other.
Mhm.
Icebox, for example, I think a lot of the time we do see similar comps. There are opportunities to maybe flex in a KO or even a Killjoy on some of these, but for the most part, Viper, Sova, and Sage, and the Jet as well, of course, will all be getting game time. So Bind and Split, at first map Bind, of course. I mean, what are you thinking here, Hanno, in terms of what we can expect to see out of both of these teams? Because there's a plenty of opportunities on the table.
I think both teams are going to head for the brim on
Yeah,
bind. Omen's
yeah.
still a possibility, but I think brim, just a triple smoke, gives you a lot more flexibility for those site exits. Again, you're tunneled into quite small sections of the map. and Brim can do a lot, especially with that ultimate that's available to use on the teleporters. So teams have to be very careful about when they decide to go through on that teleporter because they can't hang around inside it. They will get ulted. Obviously, there's a minute chance here has that we see a Yoru. I don't want to see it. I kind of want to see it, but it's such a small chance. It's barely worth mentioning. But I do want to put it out there because Bind, of all the maps,
Yeah.
is the map that Yoru could be played on. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I'm expecting the Brim, as you say. Certainly, SG Bandit's going to be going for that raise. Deviates 100% wants to pick that there. Outside of that, I'm hoping for Sky, definitely for taking control of long and even showers. The Sky
Mm.
flashes can be really, really effective. So that's kind of how the comp wants to go on out. You will see that Jet. Very, very likely to see a Sage as well. A Chamber
Mm.
might be thrown in there, swap out the Sage for a Chamber.
Yeah.
You're very unlikely to swap out the Jet for a Chamber. But if someone's feeling comfortable,
Mm.
um, I suppose it could happen. But that's kind of what I'm looking at map one. We will have to see how it pans out. Could be very,
Mm.
very different. Split, I'm not sure. Have you got any particular choice picks for Split?
Split, I'm not too sure. I must mention very, very quickly in passing that Breeze has made its way into the pool now.
There we
So we
go.
do have that third map confirmed. And, well, maybe some of my wishes have been granted. We will be seeing some Breeze gameplay if it goes the distance. And, well, I think we've got a fairly likelihood that
Yeah.
that will be happening. But going back to what you were saying about Split, I think Brimstone certainly has a place there with how much wider the map is and how there isn't that sort of loose midsection between the teleporter where Brimstone can sort of push himself into a cubby and get those smokes with additional range. I think Omen will have a lot of value on this one. Maybe teams will want to maybe play into a Viper as well, but with those buffs coming in on Omen, the teleports as well being a lot swifter, the ultimate being great for rotates, I think that's a pretty good agent to be playing into that. Sage maybe for the mid wall if they want to try and play it. I've seen a lot of teams sort of shy away from that, I suppose. I feel like I don't want to say that it's a cheap strategy to try and adopt to try and get some free mid control at the start. But a lot of the
Mhm.
time, if a team is maybe playing a Cypher or a Killjoy, you'll see an alarm bot, a tripwire, maybe even if it's a chamber, a trademark placed in that vents position, and you just sort of forget about it. Keep those two players on A, leave the mid section open. Then you have two more players towards heaven and one person holding B site. You play that kind of crossfire, and it's not something that you're really over investing too much into instead of dropping a wall. And well, if there's two or three players in mid, that wall is gone instantly and you lose all of the value. It's a bit of a trade-off. Not too sure what these teams are going to go for. Maybe we do see a Sage come through. Obviously, that res has a lot of value as well if you want to try and play these more defaulty styles and pick up those players when you have the chance to do so. But I think in terms of controllers, and that's my speculation, Omen can definitely have good value here. And well, I mean, all of them do, to be honest. Astra as well, even if you wanted to. I feel like Astra maybe a little bit more neglected than the others simply because of
Yeah.
the changes that have been made to her utility. You really do get one swing at that grav well and the nebula pulse, and if you don't hit it, then that's so much wasted, and you've got to wait the best part of a minute before you get it back. But yeah, Omen is my initial thoughts there. And in terms of duelists, we already mentioned Raze. Great for clearing out those closer angles.
Yeah, one other point just to quickly mention is that Bind is Birmingham's pick, and SG Bandits were the ones to pick Split. So we're looking really here for Birmingham to pick up map number one. SG hopefully pick up map number two and push us to a decider. So just a little bit of maybe a leeway towards either team there on who might be the favorites for that. Hopefully the teams have done their research. They've had a bit
Mm,
of time to prep for this game, an extra week because of the riot issues last week. So hopefully they have got quite a lot in store. They'll
mm,
know what the other teams play, and they should have been able to do that veto
mm,
around that knowledge. And hopefully, in just a second or two, we should be going on into Agent Select with map number one. Will be Bind. Hopefully, going to be
mm,
Birmingham's to pick on up, and I believe has as you can see on your screen there, we're already getting some stuff locked in, and the Astra has come out. Melon, I
mm.
believe, has just picked that one up.
Yeah, that is a very, very bold pick for Melon to be making. early on, obviously playing on the side of the Birmingham Bulls. This being their map as well, I think it is important that they pick it up, but I just wanted to cast my mind back quickly. They'd been in a final situation before, I believe it was against KCL, and they won that first map, which was Haven in that example, a very considerable margin. It was 13-2, something like the score was, but then they ended up losing on a reverse sweep. So I think ultimately these teams have got to keep themselves in it for the duration of this series. And looking at those picks, obviously, this is the key point of Agent Select. I'm not too sure what the thought is here from SG Bandits, really just swiping through to see what might get picked up. Kazuto teasing that chamber. We do have a raise as well, and well, I would be very surprised if we saw some kind of a triple duelist setup. I think they're just playing with us at this point, Hanno.
They certainly look like they are. They're just trying to troll the casters in that Agent Select. We'll see what gets locked in, as I believe. Yep, there we go. Raise, Chamber, Jet, Sova, Omen for the side of SG Bandits. Deviate's not on the Raise. It's going to be playing the Omen today, and it's Neko on the Raise. The other side, quite different, to be honest. They've opted in for that Sage. They've still got the Jet Chamber. That seems to be the standard here in this game. And again, two more different agents in the Astra and the Sky. So very different comps here. Nice to see, especially after the last broadcast we had. Very, very similar comps the whole way through the night, with teams playing, obviously Icebox being so similar. But here on Bind, the meta is not yet solidified, especially for university level Valorant.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly isn't. There is so much that you're able to do here. We've seen some teams even decide to pick up a comp without a duelist. I believe it was, former Gambit Masters 3 champions current roster that had maybe trialed that. So having Chamber in there, it does sort of fill that role to a certain extent. Early on in the pistol round, it looks like the attacking side are going to be going for some kind of a default here. Not really attacking straight towards one of the sites, keeping some kind of alert towards the A side of the map, and we are underway in the upper bracket final.
First blood goes the way of the Birmingham Bulls. Chamber, as Dice will pick up the first one. 4FN does get a response, and for playing the Jet in this game, Press does pick off one. Justice with two in response. Neko does finally find Dice, and it's now down to a 2-on-2. The attackers do still have control of that spike. They're keeping control of long. Neko has spotted one player out, and Deviates is going to walk on up. The teleport comes on in.
Ooh.
Neko might actually be able to catch the spike here. Hazardous could be huge. Neko misses, but taken so low, manages to secure the spike. Sky, I think about 10 HP, going to have to try and reclaim this spike, walking into potentially two opponents here. If he's quick on it, he will just have to fight the one.
Yeah, very, very incisive there through the middle. Neko able to get that pick is huge. Thomas only on 15 HP, and the sound cue will give this one away. The guiding light comes through, has no idea where they are. Doesn't drop just yet, but will eventually. It's going to be a triple there for Neko on the Raise, having early success here on Bind. The defenders will find that first round, and SG Bandits, they're already on the board. Looking good. It was a real flurry of trades towards that long position, a great part of the map to try and get some early control on. It'll be interesting to see, how often that will be the main battleground between these two sides, because, looking at things, no one's really challenged for Shower's control yet on either side. And, yeah, it's going to be about playing the teleports on those rotates as well, because we saw that that's how the two players were split up on the previous round as well.
That recon bolt from Depress going to get shot out instantly in 4FN with a pick. The remaining four players here for the Bulls going to be coming up on a long. Haven't made any sound apart from shooting that dart at the start, but Koruto, Kazuto with one, Depressed with the second. Justice does get a response, but they're both really, really low, and in comes the Raise. How's Neko going to do with the Judge in hand? Finds one, looks for the second. Easy cleanup for that Judge, and it is an anti-eco, so not too crazy. But a good starting lead, and only losing one player as well. They're going to be able to carry out the bonus round here.
Yeah, they are, and that Judge will be a good weapon to carry through as well. It does cost that little bit extra, so you don't always have the sufficient credits to really force that one up and get it in your hands. But Nako 5-0 at this point in time, leading head and shoulders above everyone else in the server, is going to be able to do just that. So they're playing towards the Lamps position on A, where we've got a bit of a stack coming through. If they can make the most out of it, it will be good. But with that being said, we're going to see the Birmingham Bulls now on a full buy. 4FN with an operator is the exception to that, I suppose. But yeah, it's that situation where they have time to probe out and see where these players are going to be looking towards. And this operator, I don't know if they've spotted just yet, might be able to find justice on this angle.
Ooh. That is a expensive kill there, as 4FM with that operator in hand goes down. Dice with the second. The Bulls starting to get grip on a round here, as just 3 players left here for SG Bandits. The Spike very much in the control of the Bulls, and looks as if an execute is being faked here as Thomas and the Jet going to teleport on through, and it's going to be the B site that they hit. Depressed instantly dropped there. No chance to respond as Melon just walks out long. This should be a very easy plant and should be around secure. 5v2 with those kind of guns. I'm not betting on the Bandits here.
Certainly not when it just looks like it's Deviates that actually wants to challenge this one. Nako will be holding on to that operator, making sure that it wasn't too costly of an investment, which I think is, you know, the most heads-up smart play that you could be making in this situation. Maybe you play for exits, but they don't want to risk it whatsoever. I suppose that opportunity will come beckoning once the majority of these players will exit the site through that teleporter on long. Now that it is in the 5 versus 1, and with that knowledge that the operator was in play, they may choose to go hunting. But yeah, not the best of rounds here, as I suppose technically it's going to be a pseudo-flawless coming out from the attacking side. And yeah, no one actually goes through the TP to challenge Nako, so that will be a weapon kept. And I suppose, you know, out of the bonus, not the worst scenario, but still not really one that you want to concede when you've made such an upfront.
Yeah, holding on to the operator is huge financially for them. They get to keep it, and they do get to get a full buyout. You know, without an operator with just a Vandal there, they wouldn't have been able to pick up that big gun again. And although the bonus, as you say, didn't go their way, it's not a terrible position to be in. Their ults are still looking pretty good. Actually, on both sides as well. Justice getting pretty close. As we head into round number 4, and 3 players leaning towards this B site. No A stack coming out from the Bandits this round. They're just going to play kind of a standard default. Very, very passive, apart from Thomas here, is trying to make as much space for as long as possible. Just flashes on out, takes some contact, gets spotted, and tagged. Are they going to be able to live? Yes, Melon prevents Kazuto from swinging Thomas any wider, and that'll be an initial pick the way of the Birmingham Bulls.
Yeah, not only that, it's not one that you can trade either. That dark cover, the timing, not so great, because it means that there's no one there to follow it up. Dice is scouting around over the top of that chamber trademark, but these sound cues are already given away. Thomas cleans the head straight off of Nako, and it looks like yet another free bomb site, uncontested, for the Birmingham Bulls to make their way into. 4FN on the retake with this operator. That long gun barrel peeking its nose around the corner will surely get spotted if there isn't an overstep, and with 3 players here peeked out, they've got plenty to challenge it. Just going to be holding the angle to see what they can find. Deviates makes their way in and gets dropped. That's a headshot as well onto 4FN, brings them to low HP. Don't think they want to try and contest, and once more, it's going to be the sole player of Depressed to try and make anything out of yet another round conceded.
Thomas has done a very good role, or very good job in his role kind of as the entry here in this round, delivering his team 2 kills off the back of his individual play. This spike is going to go off, and Depressed might actually get dropped by it. Yet another gun going to be lost from the SG Bandit side, and although they weren't really going to be able to get a buyout next round, they're only saving that operator. I think they would have probably preferred to have both the Vandal and the operator. Maybe could have opted for a force around it, but with just the operator saved and their economy not looking too good, I think realistically they want to go for an eco here and just hope 4FN goes huge.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where if you have both those guns, maybe you can try and you know, make a stronghold of one of the 2 sites and really try to play around that, but that opportunity is now gone. I love how confident we were that I'm Depressed wouldn't make it out. It was so close in the end, actually, how far away they were from maybe holding on to
Game
that
knowledge.
weapon. But no, score now reads 2 apiece. And, well, Kazuto's actually opened things up with a lovely shot from that Headhunter.
Yeah, you really cannot count a Chamber out in any round. All they need is just to spend, what, 100 credits on one bullet in
Yeah.
that Headhunter, and anything can happen. 4FN, he's walked all the way up A short, found Dice in the back, and Deviate's in long. Oh, Thomas is not aware, and that's so many picks for the side of SG Bandits. Deviate kind of needs to live here, doesn't do that, lives and kills another. So it's now 4 on 1. Oh, Bulls, I don't know what just happened, but that was a travesty. They had all the advantages. All they were playing into was a couple of Sheriffs and the Operator, and they managed to lose that round. Some very good picks from SG, I've got to say. Kazuto starting with a strong opener, and 4FN following it up with a flank towards that A. You know, getting aggressive, using that Operator as they should be. You know, the only player with a real rifle, well, real gun in that round. They need to be active on it, and 4FN delivered.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those ones, the risk and reward of playing a default into an eco. You're either in a situation where it's absolutely flawless, you get a team ace, everyone chips in, you're maxing out on those ultimate orbs, or by spreading yourself so thin, there's that opportunity to get picked open. Kazuto finds the first, and it just snowballs from there. Very good round for the SG Bandits to be picking up now. A little bit more confidence breathed into their side. 4FN once again creeps up and finds a player on their lonesome. Melon this time is on the receiving end. But it looks like the rest of their team is still trying to play towards A here. I think their options may be limited and they end up getting funneled into this execute. But, you know, a very mature performance, actually. It doesn't look like their hand's been forced just yet. Still lurking players over towards B. But that spike is slowly making its way up short.
Yeah, this execute surely just about to come in. They do actually have the Sky on with just 10 HP. It's the thing of most value that Thomas can drop here. Scattered on out and forced off back. Dice has found another pick. They have to dash in just to pick up the spike that's so far forwards. Justice kind of all alone on this site here. Dice is holding their flank, but Thomas kind of forced back to the back of short. Peeks on over a bit too aggressively. 4 tries to go for the shot, whiffs. Dice finds a 3k there to even up the scoreline. A bit of a tight one there. SG Bandits had the spike down on short, had a little bit of control there, but Bulls wrested it back from them and delivered themselves around. One thing I've got to say is that the 2 rounds of saving that Operator for 4 definitely came in clutch, because 4's been huge the past couple of rounds. It just wasn't quite enough last round to carry them over the top there in that 2v2.
Yeah, definitely showing that it was worthwhile investment. Maybe it could have been more fruitful on that initial round, but no, it's Kazuto actually with the tour de force who's going to be peering out for the initial sniper pick this time around. 4FN is posted up towards showers, but Dice doesn't want to challenge that one. And well, this is a really nice off angle actually taken up. I think they're just outside the range of the rendezvous, so it won't be a sweet escape for them unless they are able to take out one player uncontested, and it looks like Melon maybe nearing. The shot doesn't connect, and just like that, Kazuto will lose out their life. Birmingham Bulls now in a good position to try and make an execute happen as those Seekers come through. They look to commit towards the B side of the map, but that spike actually is left all the way back in long.
Justice does find one with the Vandal. 11 HP, but Nako in the air finds the kill with the showstopper. Finds a second as well onto the player jumping out of hookah. Then, oh, the nade as well. Nako goes huge on this kind of solo B-site defense here. Just Dice in a position 1v2. Oh no, 4 whiffs the shot. Nako can't sustain it, and Dice finds the clutch. 1v2. What a round from this chamber. Secures the op and puts Birmingham Bulls 4-3 ahead of the SG Bandits. What a round from Dice.
I mean, that was so nice from Dice there. A little rhyme for you, but yeah, just being able to move from one gunfight to another. The reset, I suppose it's not really a spray transfer because it wasn't carried the whole way through, but great heads-up thinking from them once they had, you know, located that initial duel and then gone back for a second bite at it, and it stuck. Really nicely done. Now looking at the score, with this being a slightly more defender-sided map, as we see some early aggression come through from 4FN, gets punished. This eco round absolutely collapsed, and it's Thomas that finds yet another opening. I mean, Kazuto will try to rally back, but only for a period of time. 4 versus 2, And 4-3 the scoreline. I think it has to be stressed that as long as it stays fairly level between the two sides, Birmingham Bulls are going to be getting a better scenario out of this, and SG Bandits draw the shorter end of the stick.
Hopefully you can't hear that. There seems to be some very loud music going on in my house. Apologies if you can hear that. But anyway, back into the round. As that wall is kind of locking half of this team out of the side. And Depress going to want to go through that. Nico swings into far too many players. And Flip finds a triple. Depress finds one. But Thomas will finish them off. Birmingham Bulls extend that lead a little bit more. And it was a very, very nice round from the Bulls. One thing to note is obviously it kind of being a bit of an eco there for FN. It was all kind of a gamble on those knives to go huge. Unfortunately, not able to happen. I believe 4FN, updrafted, dashed forwards, and then still got hit by the Sky. I forget the name, the dog. Jumping straight, Trailblazer, thank you. Jumping straight at them. Couldn't really do much, unfortunately, there. Trying to look two ways at once. It's a little bit difficult for us humans.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a good information play anyway, right? They got that info. There was a good rotate that came through, and overall, not the worst round. I don't think the music came through, but only the sweet chime of another round win for the Birmingham Bulls. Right now, though, looks like the script could be flipped, as that's going to be a really nice pair of opening kills for that Jet and Chamber duo once more. Aldrone will force Thomas to fall back a little bit. And not only that, they've taken a significant amount of damage, which results in them losing their life. Deviates will drop them. And now it's only the Jet Chamber combo of the Birmingham Bulls to see if they can't find anything from this round. There's spikes spliced between the two of them, but yeah, they've crossed into a corner. Do they know the Jet's
on the left?
I don't think they do. There's a chance to maybe pick them off on this angle, but Kazuto just reacts that little bit faster. Takes the head off even to add insult to injury. And now it is just going to be Dice left alone with no spike whatsoever, since that control is now lost between the two of them. We'll find Deviates, but it will have to be an ace clutch to win it out.
Yeah, 4 is about to find that spike. Should make the call to the team, and there we go. The Chambers rotated on back. Dice with 20 seconds on the clock, no spike, and not much of a hope in the round. A couple of points off that tour de force as well. Kind of wants to save this operator to have that impact in the future rounds. And Depressed, I think just jump spotting there. Just trying to get an eye on towards Showers, make sure that Dice isn't going for a late plant or something. As they do scout Dice out. And they will drop him. That's a huge loss for the side of the Bulls. Not going to keep that operator alive, and their economy not looking too good here, Hazza.
No, it really isn't. I mean, in some ways, I respect the play from Dice in that situation. I think by the time they've committed to the angle, you have to take that fight instead of breaking the dart. The worry in their mind was that if they pushed up into the left cubby, so wallbangable, very, very easy to lose that one out. So they have to try and look for the gunfight, but it's so easy for I'm Depressed to just take them out in that situation. A weapon now lost, economy not looking so great. This is a funky little recon dart that will bounce around, and well, those shots combine between 4FN and Depressed, and once again, another great opener here for SG Bandits. 4FN constantly involved in these opening duels, and that looks like how they want to try and set this one up, constantly dictating the pace of this matchup, and it's been a lot more success into them in recent rounds. With that being said, Thomas equally is good at finding an opener, and will retaliate with a nice pick onto 4FN.
Missed shot there again from the side of SG Bandits. Not doing too well on these operator entries just yet. Dice just swings straight on out into it. Still doesn't get tagged. It takes the Sova ult to force them out of position. Thomas runs on in with 5 HP now off that Hunter's Fury, and the XQ is coming on towards this B site, but I think they've called it off. Flip wants to go back. Their team kind of stuck in this garden position. The smoke's just faded. They can't really get out very easily here. Left. And Dice just trying to take a fight, trying to take some kind of a duel here. Has managed to make it out. Should expect this player towards Elbow. Does get blinded by it. Might not expect it. And Deviates gets one. Looking for a second. There goes Dice. and the score is evened up. SG Bandits, they've got quite the arsenal, honestly, on form here today. They've had a lot of those early picks, which have led to these round wins. And they're doing them in very different ways as well. So it's hard for the Bulls to really predict where that aggression is going to come out. We know where 4FN is going to try and walk out with an operator and find that pick. Where Depressed, or when Depressed is going to get aggro on that long, or if they're going to kind of play it safe. Bulls have got to be focused on almost ever on the map at the same time, and they're struggling a little bit with it at the start of these rounds.
Yeah, it's going to be a less than ideal buy for them now in this situation as the scoreline ties itself up coming out of the 10th round. Kazuto will be the one to try and find this initial jewel, but that swing just a little bit too wide for them to connect with, and that's the first 2 shots already left the chamber of that operator. Now they're able to find the mirror pick, and not only that, they found Flip as well. Justice will eventually get some involvement, and this finally opens the site up to the Birmingham Bulls side, but there's players in hookah, players getting ready to try and recommit here, and when those shots don't connect from the Bucky, it's such a difficult scenario to be in. All of that territory has been reclaimed. And now it's a 3 versus 1 situation where Thomas has to try and see this one out on their lonesome. Plenty of time to reposition, so there is always that opportunity. However, I think Depressed is being so forward-thinking, and that owl drone comes straight out to greet them.
Oh no, they have to swing on out, but Depressed hops out of the owl drone, deviates in him, going for a little bit of a crossfire there. And unfortunately, Thomas will not be able to clutch this round here. SG Bandits retake the lead after a few rounds in its absence, and will be looking to potentially close out this half with a lead if they can manage just one more round. I'm not sure, how is the Bulls economy looking there? They can buy up here. In fact, they could get an operator out if they really wanted to. They wouldn't be able to get those full shields, but maybe they wouldn't want it. Nope, they're going to stick to the rifles. Kazuto going to be picking up that operator for the side of the SG Bandits. As we go into the last round of the half, there's a couple of ults available. Kazuto going to be dropping theirs instantly. Dice as well. Both chambers, hopefully, going to see some kind of an op duel coming on in pretty soon. But the aggression looks to be coming out from a short. Look at this, there's 3 players running on in so fast, but there's all the players from the Bulls here as well, and it's the Bulls that come out on top with 2 kills to 4FN's 1, and Deviates is here as well, but he can't do anything as Dice shuts him down, and it's a 4-on-2, both players rotating through that CT. And it looks like this half might just end 6-6.
Yeah, they've doubled up the wall as well. Cosmic Divide comes through, joined on with a barrier orb. Depressed maybe having some identity crisis there with the trademark of their teammate. But that owl drone will come through and at least collect a little bit of information towards these players in Lamps, U-Haul, whatever you want to call it. There is a crossfire established. And as that Gravity Well and Nebula Pulse come through, it's going to leave Depressed in a situation where they're really going to struggle to try and fight this one back, especially when they're not grouped up with their teammate. Peeks out into 2, can only get one of them. The res is going to be the cherry on top in a round that was already secured as we come out of that half. 6-6, both of these teams evenly matched, nothing to separate the 2. Now it has to be seen. I think Birmingham Bulls did have a fairly good attacker side, to be honest, to keep things level at this point in time. And also, Justice, one of those players that I didn't really mention in the pregame, but I think carries so much potential on that jet. If they're a more defender-sided player, like we saw with 4FN, getting aggressive on those angles with an operator, if they're able to build up that economy and enable such gameplay, it could be a threatening prospect for SG Bandits to try and break down.
Yeah, I think SG Bandits, they're going to be happy with that half, but they probably think that they could have done more, because realistically the attacking side should be more challenging. Justice going early, aggression finds their opposite number in 4FN, and Thomas going for the second. Nako has got a kill elsewhere on the map, and they have actually managed to secure themselves that B site. Kazuto over here on A, completely by themselves. The spike is going to teleport around. I don't think they're aware. They think the Astra's rotated. Is Kazuto actually not going to check Lamps?
I don't know.
They aren't, and the spike, as well as both these attackers, might get caught out by Melon in a very surprising position as they tuck on into what I would call Cubby.
This is such a confusing round. It's almost as if the defenders are playing the attacking role at this point in time, as 2 of them now push towards that Lamps position. Nako Stuck
Oh, the
out in
spike goes
showers,
down.
can't assist their teammate with that spike now down, like you said. Only 15 points of health to work with. Such low HP on these last two players. Justice with a Sheriff. I think that's a gun barrel poked out. Might not have been, but it doesn't matter anymore. Melon finishes them off. The pistol round will go the way of the Birmingham Bulls, and they do swing straight back.
It's a pretty strong start for them, and picking up the pistol usually delivers you 2 rounds, and if they can carry that out, that puts them in a very good position to potentially pick up game 1. We must bear in mind, of course, Hazard, this is their pick. So, you go into this map expecting them to perform well. The real tell is obviously going to be how map 2 and map 3 potentially go, but expecting to see Birmingham Bulls perform well here and being on the defensive side for the second half, starting off with the lead as well. Certainly a good sign that we won't be seeing, well, hopefully not seeing a 2-0 tonight. Depress trying to get the angle on Flip, but the wall, pretty good Flip. Does get tagged, but it's not that bad. And Melon with the first blood here as 4FN gets dropped. Again, the buy isn't that great for SG Bandits, so realistically, Bulls should be picking this one up pretty comfortably. Flip really wants to take that fight, even with only 60 HP, does manage to win it.
Just about, and that's all that's going to count, really. Another player off the board, now a 5 versus 3 scenario, and all of these attacking SG Bandits players still have their sights set towards A, posturing for this push. 3 of them stacked up on short. There is utility here from the Astra, and like we said, you've got to get it just right. If they're able to time this well, that's going to be a very easy pickup, and, well, it comes through. Doesn't find anyone, but those players will. They all get dropped, and Kazuto is forced to back away. That rendezvous will relocate them to the market position. And that's so much ground that they've got to cover. Only 30 seconds. And, I mean, this one is looking like a bit of a lost cause. That guiding light will guide them to the light. They ascend to the afterlife. And now, the scoreline will read 8-6. It's a very standard procedure off the back of that pistol round. Anti-eco converted. I mean, you do get the plant there, so there was an opportunity for them to force buy, but they only went for some kind of a light investment with some headhunter shots, light armor and the such, and will now be able to get full rifles on the board coming into this bonus round.
Yeah, SG Bandits got to be very careful with this round. If they don't manage to pick this one up, they could really let the Bulls run away with this lead. And realistically, you've got the fiber rifles versus the SMGs. Anything can happen, but you are slightly favored. Nico with the first one, deviates, follows it up with a second. Both headshots there as they come on dashing in towards B4. FN doesn't want to get picked off here, but does as Dice secures the first blood for the side of the Bulls. And on towards this back site there, may get spotted out. Oh, that util's perfect. Nico on the backside finds their second. Looking for the third. Is kind of aware, maybe not checking it, but Dice walks on out. Nako picks up a triple, and a very important triple for the side of Bandits.
Yeah, I mean, clearing out that backside position can be, a real
Tricksy.
Yeah, it can be a really difficult one. I'm trying to look for the words. There's so many angles that you have to clear. You've got, players playing in towards the backside, inside the tubes, both of the cubbies towards the green boxes and the pocket. So I think it's a situation where the SG Bandits, they've taken a lot of space, but then they sort of have to still consider the fact that there may still be a player lurking, and they eventually find it. Really great utility usage, it must be said, to make their way in. And, well, if they can keep making moves like that, set themselves up for success. Having a Sova and a Raze brings a lot of potential damage that you can throw into these pockets. And we saw it on that round. Great combination of the paint shells and shock dart enables them nicely. Once again, long of B is going to be that primary battleground between the two sides. No first blood has been taken just yet, as it will be depressed by themselves using this owl drone to keep those defenders on their toes. And, well, there's a stack of players now looking to commit towards the A side of the map.
Walking on out, completely slowed by that trademark. Flip finds one, playing in and out of this smoke just to try and stay alive. Will get spotted here, spammed by so many, but doesn't go down. It's actually huge as Flip can live, get healed on up by the sky. It's a 4v5 retake. Dice narrows it down to a 5-on-3. Manning going to go out with the flash raise, fully blind. It's a 5-on-2. What can they do as the spike should get defused? Almost completely flawless on that retake, only dropping that Sky there. Thomas, unfortunately, the one man to fall. And Birmingham Bulls put that lead back to a 2-round one with a pretty dominant retake there.
Yeah, and I think that's something that needs to be noted about this comp as well, and it was something that hadn't really struck my mind too much until we're now seeing the Birmingham Bulls on defense, is that because they've got that Sky and Sage, it means there's 2 players which can offer healing for the whole of their squad. If they want to try and play for a retake, they can go take those, you know, unconventional duels. Like Flip, for example, got caught out pretty badly there, but Thomas had their back in the retake. Not only that, I mean, Sky offers utility for that retake as well that you're able to use, not to mention Astra being able to reclaim those stars. So they're in a situation where they can afford to give that little bit of space if they're able to work it back. I think that's, you know, essentially more pressing when it comes to the A site. You can give the A site away a little bit more, but B, not so much. That retake, I would argue, it is a lot harder to try and make work. So the fact that the spike is towards that side of the map right now could be a little bit of a problem if that is the situation that happens, because, you know, we're seeing a stack of 4 players on that Birmingham Bulls side right now towards A, and just like that, the SG Bandits players retreat and look towards just the sole player here of 4FN to try and, or Justice, sorry, to defend this one from elbow.
Nako goes in very, very quickly. Hasn't looked towards elbow, but should be able to clear the rest of sight. That Astra wall coming on in, and Justice just not ready. Caught out of position, depressed, takes their life, and Dice going to be trying to retake through Hookah. And as you say, this is not an ideal site to be retaking, especially in a 1v4. Dice is going to have to go absolutely massive with not much in the way of utility and much in the way of free kills. No, I speak wrong. He's given 2. He's given maybe 3. Finds them. That's a 4K for Dice right now, looking for just the one more. Not blind from that Omen. Might not be expecting. Going to peek on that. Has the tour de force. Doesn't quite find it. Deviates. Will secure the round, but Bandits, they almost threw that. It was very, very tight.
Yeah.
And Dice got to be happy racking up all that economic damage. Not quite the win, but still a lot of important kills there for the team, keeping the SG Bandits at least a little bit lower than they might have liked to be.
I mean, certainly keeping them on their toes and showing them that this matchup is not done yet, just yet. Dice living up to their name and making it a very dicey one for SG Bandits to try and contend with. That position as well towards Hookah, the way that you can just sort of bop your head in and out of those angles really can cause a lot of issues, as we see Justice with the Blade Storm goes charging forward to try and find some of these picks. They get that first headshot, but it's swiftly met with a response from the press. Thomas has one of their own, but we're just playing trades at this point in time. 3 versus 3, and as Dice loses their life, Thomas just keeps on going. It's a triple from them now, and the score has flipped just like that. A man advantage for these defending Birmingham Bulls players means that Kazuto's got to try and find their way back to the spike. These 2 defenders can really regroup, and with a res thrown on top of it as well, it's a tough scenario to try and battle back from. Not too sure if there are weapons picked up on the side here of the Birmingham Bulls.
I believe the Sky did manage to grab.
Yeah, there is a Vandal in play.
Yeah.
But a Spectre as well. This is still a very doable situation for Kazuto to try and pull out the bag. We've seen Chambers in these isolated 1vx scenarios having a little bit of success on the previous round, but can they convert it?
Well, they are correctly going towards the site with just the one player. Thomas, I believe, playing this pretty much as well as you can, playing off the site, because he has to clear every single angle. Knows that there must be a player here, you know, with 3 defenders alive. There has to be someone, but just doesn't really have the time to clear absolutely everything. Has to make noise. The rotate is called, and Thomas should just be able to walk straight on to this player. A little bit risky going for the 1v1, but will pick it up, and that's a 4K for Thomas. What a round from them. That Sheriff coming in clutch to, well, put themselves at a huge advantage in that 2v1, allowing the Sage, giving them some space to get that revive, and what a round it is, as the SG Bandits are going to falter yet again. The rounds double digits it is now for the Birmingham Bulls, and really, they don't have a sign of stopping SG Bandits' economy in the bin, I believe is the terminology that most people would use. And when you're staring down a pretty tight scoreline like that, 10 rounds is not far off. They've got to find something in soon.
They certainly do. I mean, you can say that they've been struggling, and I think the phrase you used was falter, and that makes perfect sense because really, it's in these mid to late rounds where they've been struggling. 3 of the
Yeah.
4 rounds picked up from this defending Birmingham Bulls side have been defuses, so it's in the retake that they're having a lot of their success. It's the question of, do you really try and press that advantage so far before you try and get the spike down? Or are you looking to, maybe be a little bit more resolute in that post plant? Because these positions maybe haven't come up as well as they could have. Even looking at the round that they were able to pick up, it came so close down to that 1 versus 1. Hunter's Fury and Showstopper both invested to try and, find that gap early on, but what will they get? It's just the 1, and it's a trade for it as well. Depressed will alleviate some of that a little bit with 2 lovely headshots. Searching for that third onto Dice. Finds it through the side of the box. That's absolutely razor sharp from Depressed. And now it falls on the Jet of Justice to try and make some justice of their own. Only an operator in the retake is always a tough scenario. 2 players and neither of them looking to peak in this situation. We said the post plant had to be better, and this recon will only add to it. Able to get the first one, peeked out with the shot on the second. No way! Justice gets it in the 1 versus 2, and that's going to be an 11th on the round for Birmingham Bulls, and they shouldn't have had that. Like I said, the post plant once again.
No, that's so terrible for the SG Bandits. They had such a good round. Depressed coming out, I think, as big as they possibly could in that scenario to find, well, 2 frankly disgusting kills through the side of those 2 walls there. But then Justice just, had a bit of a rough time on the attack. We were sort of looking and saying, hopefully they're a more defense-sided player, and frankly, pulling off a retake like that, very, very impressive. And still, 3 and a bit seconds on the clock. So loads of breathing room for Justice there. And the Bulls pushing themselves up to 11. And also, with how many ults the SG Bandits burnt last round, they do not have a lot of opportunities to stop these Birmingham players. And if they want to do it, it's kind of got to be soon, as they don't have a lot of breathing room. A gun already going down, and that will be the Bulls in a 5-on-4. A lot of utility coming out towards long, and the X keeps coming in as well.
Thomas finds that one on the corner into BB8. There's only 1 player left in Hookah, and they'll lose their life as well. Now, that attack is stunted. They're going to have to try and make their way out from long. 4FN's doing good work, and so's Depressed. Now it's back to a 2 versus 2 situation. Spike does need to be collected, and he's perched up on the ledge, so it's a tough one to make. But 4FN on a triple, feeling themselves right now. We said how much impact they can have, and just like that, they've pulled an almost impossible round out from the depths. And just like that, SG Bandits, they get some life breathed back into them. And they're not out of this one just yet, not yet willing to concede that match point.
And one of the good things about how this half has been going for the SG Bandits is that they have been keeping the Bulls on a little bit of a back foot in terms of economy. Although they've been losing the majority of these rounds, they've been getting it pretty close. Those 2 defuses the last couple of rounds were pretty tight. That round with Justice being the only one to survive means that the economy just hasn't really had a chance to build up for Birmingham, putting SG Bandits in a position where a comeback is very possible. They don't have to win 4 or 5 rifle rounds in a row. They just have to break the economy once, maybe even twice, and then they could be matching it up or even pushing for the win. Dice playing up in an advanced position here. They haven't checked it yet, and they may not decide to. 4FN walks into it. Dice definitely saw the leg there, tries to pre-fire it, but gives away the position.
Such a nice position to take up, so that's maybe somewhat of a misplay. They're going to have to back up, and that's no longer an angle they're able to utilize. Still, all players left standing on both sides, and, well, I think that the SG Bandits can use this to manipulate to their advantage. The Owl Drone will come through to clear Hookah. Thomas may be looking for a teammate to break it, but has to do it by themselves. The Slow Orb will maybe try to inhibit Nako, but they will win that one out. It's a pick they can try and work with. There's still an opportunity to go elsewhere, but with 30 seconds left on the clock,
no,
that is a
Nako.
pressing matter. Nako not quite connecting the satchel there, but it's not going to matter. All these players sweeped out, not even a care in the world about who might be backside because they're gone. Justice loses their life in that situation as well. So will Kazuto, but there's a perfect trade from 4FN who creeps up into elbow. 10-11, the scoreline still so tight between these teams. We thought that maybe we would see a bit of a difference as the sides shifted, and while Birmingham Bulls did get that initial placebo advantage, it is creeping back in, and that door still left open for SG Bandits means that we'll see that first timeout of the best of 3.
I think it's a smart one. I'm glad they've called it now and not when it's 11-11. Give themselves a bit of breathing room. I'm not sure of the economy here for the SG Bandits and the Bulls. If we could see that observer, that would be great. Just wondering how many buys the Bulls can actually pull out here. Because obviously the SG Bandits just won 2 in a row. I'm pretty sure, they don't have a buy this round. So they're using this timeout to think about how they're going to play this eco, maybe a little bit of a half buy if they want to, and then potentially discuss how they're going to change it up the following round, the round where it really matters. When it's 11-11, you need to be picking up that rifle. And the problem for them is that if they lose this round and the scoreline does go even, I'm pretty sure that SG Bandits can buy the rest of the game. There's 2 more rounds after this one, and they'd look pretty comfortable with those credits. They should be able to buy. So no free rounds remaining for Bulls if they do drop this one. And with what they bought here, I don't look I'm not too enthused about their chances in this round.
Let's go.
Yeah, as we can see, 3 players already stacked up towards short. I think we know what the plan is going to be here. That guiding light will come through for some early aggression. What can they find? 3 players blind, but 2 straight into the pocket of Kazuto. Nearly collects a 3rd as well onto Melon. And, well, I'm sure 4FN will finish up what they started. It's actually Nako that gets involved instead. 5 versus 2 situation this round, all but done. Flip will add a constellation to it for the time being with that ghost, but that is all. The triple does fall into the hands eventually of Kazuto on that chamber, and we are at 11-11. No real surprises there. That was not a round that they had to invest in whatsoever. This is the real kicker, and the reason being for that timeout gives them a little extra headroom to think about. And, well, yeah, I mean, looking at the involvement of the chamber picks here, you can really see why they've come so much into the meta. You only need that one trademark to watch almost the entire flank from that market position. So, I mean, it's so much involvement on the meta, and Kazuto in that round as well, doing so much damage. Obviously they have a rifle in hand, but we've seen them with that headhunter time and time again have so much impact.
This is kind of a do or die round for the Bulls. They don't have the economy to do much next round, so this is incredibly vital for them to pick up their own map pick, which will be very disheartening for them if they do lose map 1, considering SG Bandits are up next with their map pick. Justice whiffs the shot on the first, but Melon will secure it. That's Kazuto down, and Melon finds a second, going huge to try and secure their team at least overtime, if not the dub. 4FN with a response. Men does go down, but Thomas has found the trade. Justice finds another, and the Bulls making a little bit of a comeback here is 4-on-1. Rest is going to back on off. So much utility going his way. Dice holding from the backside, but Rest finds one. They really do not want to throw this one. It could still go either way. Justice very, very low. Flip does get a revive out. Goes back into a 1v4. Depressed. Oh, finds one. Looking for the second. That's a second. Looking for the third. Thomas so low. But Depressed will finally get dropped. And that's 2 rounds now. Well, that Sova has gone absolutely ham and still hasn't been able to win the round because of it. That's got to be disheartening. It
really does. And it's one of those situations as well. Both of those clutch scenarios, all 4 or 5 players have been straight in front of them. They haven't had to look left or right. It's almost like they've gone into a shooting gallery and they're just looking to find them one by one. Gets a bit unlucky there with the fight on Thomas. I say unlucky. The flick just not quite in time to see that one out. But The key thing is that Birmingham Bulls have found that round. On their map pick, they're going to secure it and at least have match points, so that is an overtime now in their hands if they need it. The free swing is to try and find it on this round. 3 ultimates available and 3 very offensive ones, I would argue, for SG Bandits to try and use that from the shadows could really make some kind of a late execute work. But look how far pushed up we're already seeing Justice here, playing behind that trademark from the chamber. And with a spike yet to be committed, it does look like it will be set towards A. If Chamber of Kazuto loses their life in this initial duel, that flank is activated so early. And well, it looks like Justice has actually just used the Cloudburst to get straight in behind anyway. Dice is finding these ones on the front lines. It's collapsing, and well, Birmingham Bulls need to see this one out right now.
It's a 1-on-1 Justice against the opposing Sova. Depressed, he's gone huge so far for their team this game. Walks straight into smoke, but Justice has spotted them. Depressed just need to find the 1 kill, and they can't. Justice secures Birmingham Bulls in a pretty incredible comeback there. Their own map pick. And what a round, what a map, what a performance it was from both teams. It couldn't really have been much closer there. We saw the full 24 rounds. Depressed going absolutely huge, 21. Kazuto dropping 20 as well. You know, top of the scoreboard for that combat sword, but it's still not enough to win them the game, as it will be Dice, Thomas, Melon, Flip, and Justice, side of the Bulls, that pick up game number 1 there on Bind.
Really interesting looking at those first bloods as well on the scoreboard. Kazuto on the role of Chamber, it somewhat makes sense, especially when you're on the defender's side and you can just hold an angle, wait for them to push in and, you know, abuse the sniper, whether it be that operator or tour de force. But Melon coming up with 5 first bloods as well for their side on the Astra, getting very aggressive in that controller role and doing a great job for their side. So yeah, really impressive performance all across the board. Standout plays from pretty much every single player, and that's what you expect to see in an upper bracket final. Really, both of these teams stepping up to the plate early on. 13-11. It's not too bad of a scoreline, really, to be taking on your opponent's map pick. And if SG Bandits can just dust themselves off a little bit and make their way through, then they still have an opportunity to secure their place in that grand finals and get that 1 map advantage. I think as well, the thing is, as I was saying earlier, Birmingham Bulls have been in a situation before when they've taken that first map in a grand final series and then struggle to really lock in that next, you know, map or two to see them over the line. So this one is all but done and dusted, Hannah.
It could be ending in a 2-0 potentially, but I'm also betting on the distance. SG Bandits just got to, you know, mentally reset, physically reset, get themselves back into the game. They were so close to picking up that map 1. It just wasn't to be, but there's still map 2 and potentially even map 3 to come. So we've got Split, I believe, is map number 2 coming up after the break, but we will quickly just thank our partners Twitch, Student, and Intel for helping support this broadcast and the entire tournament. Before we say goodbye, we'll head to a break for a short while and come back with map 2.
I live 17 floors up, and when it rains, I can feel those drops in my window pane. Lets me know that I'm still here. But when the sun comes out, I will go outside. When it breaks through clouds, I will give a smile. Lets me know that I'm still here. Sometimes I want to run away, to find good times again, to find all my old friends. Times I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and up, and when I cry, I can see the city through my watered eyes. Lets me know that I'm still here. When my eyes clear up, I will go outside. I'll imagine you're still by my side. Lets me know that I'm still here. Sometimes I want to run away, to find good times again, to find all my old friends. Run away, to the nearest place where I'll find all my old friends. Times I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and we left this town with the speakers loud and the radio playing old Sublime that we stole online, every verse we know, and we hadn't had
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the upper bracket finals of the Null Valorant Varsity between Birmingham Bulls and SG Bandits. Birmingham Bulls currently have a one-map advantage after taking their choice of bind. Now we go to split, which is SG's choice in the pool. We will have the decider of Breeze coming up if they're able to retain this one, but if not, then it will be that swift 2-0 and a one-map advantage going into that grand finals in 2 weeks' time. I'm once again joined by my co-caster, Hanno. Hanno, what are we feeling coming into split after what we've just seen between these two teams?
I feel like it's going to be competitive. I don't think we can count the Bulls out. I came into this with a little bit of an early prediction saying the SG Bandits, they're kind of the favourites at this point, coming top. They have beaten the Bulls before. It was best of one. Anything can happen, and it did go to overtime. So how much does that really tell us? But certainly both these teams have shown a really high caliber of play. That bind was exemplary from both sides, and it really could have gone either way at the end there. Just some really clutch plays coming on out meant that we didn't actually have to go to OT at the end there.
Mm.
Right down to the wire in that 1v1 there. Um, anything could have happened there, and who knows what happens in overtime. So certainly, I'm expecting something similar here on Split. Now, obviously, this being SG Bandits' pick, we're hoping that that will give them the edge and that they'll be able to pick this one up, put us to a map 3, and some kind of a decider will be played on Breeze, which is a map you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You quite enjoy it, and I'm very excited for it because I know how 4FN plays on Breeze. He likes to pick up that Viper and play very, very aggressive, and I absolutely cannot wait to see that again, if that's possible.
Yeah.
But first, we will have to go through Split, which we did talk a little bit about agents earlier. Do you, after seeing that original, that first
Mm.
map bind, is there any adjustments? Like, obviously, they both pick Chamber. Do you think they'll bring it out again
Mm.
on Split?
That is something interesting to mention. I'm not sure Chamber gets as much love on Split.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the same kind of value can be brought to the table that you would maybe get out of a Cypher purely based off of tripwires and the different, eloquent setups you can make with cages and such on this map. Or Killjoy, that lockdown, such great retake potential in a lot of different scenarios there to maybe try and
Yeah.
maybe even set up with the nano swarms ahead of time, some kind of lineups. Not too sure. Irrespective, the point being is that they wouldn't maybe carry as much to the table. So maybe they might want to reconsider. But considering how, potent Chamber is right now and such a chokehold that they have on the meta, it wouldn't surprise me if they do get picked up. Nako picked up the Raze, which we said coming into this,
Yeah.
we would expect to see from at least someone going on to these two maps. So whether they're feeling it or not off the back of that defeat is yet to be seen. And well, we'll
Mhm.
have to see whether they want to maybe reintroduce that. But on controllers, maybe Melon just goes straight with the Astra once again. I mean, they had plenty of success
Yeah.
with it on Bind after, leading the way in terms of first bloods for their team. Maybe that's something that they want to try and work with. The buff or the nerf, sorry, hasn't hit them so hard that they're completely changing the way that they want to set up. I'm not sure if we'll see a double controller comp come out from these teams. And we already had that conversation about whether Sage is introduced towards mid, but I guess if we saw Flip playing it before, there's always the chance that they'll flex onto it as well. So these comps, in many ways, might carry a few similarities to what we saw on the previous map.
I think one thing that we didn't really see much of, obviously on the bind, I don't think we did. We have a brimstone on bind? I don't think we did. If I'm right, we had the Omen and then we had the Astrus. There wasn't
No,
a
we didn't.
brimstone yet, and I know he's had that slight nerf
Mm,
to the stimmy, but I would expect to see him at some point tonight. Maybe
mm,
the players just aren't comfortable on that agent yet. But I was talking about how key that ultimate can be for clearing out U-Haul, for clearing out teleporters on bind. On split, it can still be very, very strong.
mm,
You can kind of deny control of that vents area with it, as well as be heaven. And I think on split, because that mid area is so important, going into B without having control of mid is very, very
mm,
challenging, and you're very likely just to be sprayed down, spammed through smokes, the wall knocked down, and the whole plan collapse around you. So you do need to go for that mid play, which is one of the reasons I think a double control is quite likely
mm.
on split. If you're playing that kind of double smokes or a Viper, probably unlikely, but maybe an Astra with a brim. You can have so much
Mm.
cover in that middle area that you should be able to fight it relatively uncontested.
I think it has to be said that in terms of maps, this is maybe Viper's one of their strongest because you can use that wall to great effect in the mid area, and I've seen teams use it
Yeah,
aggressively in A main as well. So I'm not too sure if they will get involved. Like you said, they aren't anywhere near as strong as they used to be. So
yeah,
there is that sort of caveat to it, I suppose. But as one of the agents that I did mention previously, when we were on the desk before we got into that first map was Omen, and we saw Deviates was able to pick it up on Bind. One of the great things about it is the From the Shadows, that ultimate giving you great rotatability, but I think that adds to it even more on split because there aren't those teleporters for a fast rotate. So
yeah.
that probably has even more value in this sense. Whether they want to hold on to it or not, it will be a different question to ask, considering they didn't have the best of performances on that previous map. not sure if they want to stick to their guns and keep at it, or if they're really feeling that a different agent would aid them better. So coming into this one, there's a lot of questions that will need answering. Do we go to that third map? Do these players want to try and stick with what they're familiar with, or is there going to be some kind of a crazy shift from SG Bandits to get it over the line? Is it just a case of it wasn't their map pick and it was a very fine margin that was the distance between the two, or do they really need to rethink the whole thing? I mean, what's your viewpoint on it, Hanno? Do you think that there needs to be some kind of a radical shift, or if they keep playing how they're playing, do they still have every chance to bring this onto Breeze?
I think it depends how confident SG is. If they are desperate to make that finals off this game, for example, if you look at that lower bracket, there are still some strong teams in there.
Mm,
Do they want to risk, potentially losing this map by holding back some tech, holding back some strats for that finals, and then have a risk of being dropped out of varsity entirely by those lower bracket teams? If they're not afraid, then maybe they just play this one safe, see if they can edge out the map. But in my opinion, you've got a chance to get to the grand finals right here and now. You're a map down. This is the time to start bringing some stuff out. You've still got a good couple of weeks till the grand finals comes along. You can prep some more stuff later. If you've got a pocket pick or something clever that you think the other team might not be expecting, or some kind of a counter, now would be the time to do it, especially on your map pick. You're confident. You need to do something to at least even the scoreline so you don't go out of this in an embarrassing 2-0 fashion. So I hope there'll be something come on out. But again, haven't seen Split in a few weeks. So exciting to
mm,
see which sort of comp they are going to go with. You were sort of saying that Viper not actually as strong as she used to be. The nerf was not great, obviously, for Viper, but I
mm.
will admit that she's still a very, very
Yeah.
strong controller, and you know you don't have to have both her Q and her wall up at the same
Mm,
time, and then she's still kind of the same agent if you don't use them at the same
mm,
time. The nerfs really don't affect her too bad if you use that wall in a smart
mm,
fashion. So still very, very viable to bring up that wall. But otherwise, as you sort of mentioned a little bit earlier, just before we came back, or just after we came back from the break,
mm,
was that Killjoy is sometimes seen on Split.
mm.
There's a lot more positions, I think, that you can actually plant a Killjoy and be relatively safe with it. Obviously, a Raised or a Hunter's Fury, nowhere safe. But there's a lot more cubbies, a lot more
Mm.
positions close to that site, like, for example, the B main entrance as well as the A main entrance. There's little areas you can tuck a lockdown in, and you should be pretty safe in securing that bomb site, at least to get the plant, the initial plant. The master plant might be more difficult, but that killjoy can be effective. Whereas on bind, there's a lot of play can happen around with
Yeah.
flanks, with teleporters. It's not as safe as you might hope to chuck down one of those lockdowns.
No, it certainly isn't. And I mean, like you said, there's also a lot of close angles you can try and work with Killjoy. I know, for example, towards B Heaven, B Tower position, you're able to combine that utility to make some
Oh
really
yeah.
nasty setups. I was playing Split earlier with Killjoy, as a matter of fact. So, I'm
Did you
aware
win?
of some of these. Yeah, we did actually.
Oh,
So,
there you go.
you want to be able to have these in your back pocket, right? Able to
Yeah.
use the turret to take first contact, then you're walking into an alarm bot on a double swarm. In mailroom, for example, is a great place to put it. Just underneath in that pocket spot, next to where the flower pot is on A as well. That A main entrance is also very strong, and like you said, lockdown for retake. So that'll be one of the things. We've touched on controllers and sentinels, but something else to mention. We said how important initiators are in the current meta. Do you think there's an opportunity maybe to flex in some different initiators here? I know KO sometimes gets some playtime on
Yeah.
this map, but one that I'm thinking of that we haven't mentioned at all during this broadcast would be Breach, because I think Breach does
Yeah.
actually bring some value to the table in this instance, similarly to what you would see on Fracture, for example. It plays in a sort of similar way, but not to the same extent. And even going back onto the previous point of Killjoy, that Aftershock is able to interact with the Killjoy lockdown very, very nicely on both of those main positions. So a potential counterplay there as well.
Yeah, something to be said for Split is that you can set up that breach utility very, very well. There's a lot of positions because you've got that very open mid area, as well as the B main and the A main areas being very, very large as well. You've got a lot of areas to drop that. Is it Rolling Thunder, I believe, is the
Yeah.
name of the ultimate. You've got a lot of areas, a lot of angles that you can throw that down. And there's not a huge amount of counterplay because if you're on a site, there's nowhere really to go. You have to fully back off towards screens or even go up into heaven. So definitely a strong agent, whether they prefer that over the KO. Because another thing to say is, of course, with the bomb sites themselves being quite relatively small, relatively compressed compared to someone like Breeze, for example, the KO ult covers so much of the map that you kind of prevent any site defense at all just by popping it just before you run into the site, and even just walking up mid there's no way to hold an angle that's not in range of that ult, and you just have to take the shot on the KO, fall back, and hope he doesn't get revived, try and deny it somehow. There's not a lot of response to that. There's also a lot of really nice knives for the KO. If they know some lineups, there's some ones I know from the back of A where you can chuck them over and land in towards that heaven position. You can get some very nice flashes over the top, and combined with a jet, for example, you can dash on in. It's almost like what you see with the Omen blind into a jet dash in A Heaven. You can get some nice lineups that almost work just as well as that. So you can make some stuff happen with a couple of different initiators, but maybe we'll just see the Sky again because most people are much more comfortable, I think, on the Sky, just with how historically that agent has been kind of the meta for a long, long time. Not so much in the recent issue, but for a while has been the strong point and one most players are much more comfortable with.
Yeah, and I mean also as well, I guess it links into the way that Split is as a map. You said KO and Breach good for retakes in those situations. The way that the map sets itself up is very interesting because you have that midsection, which offers you an alternative route to go into both of those heaven positions. But yeah, both of those sites, sometimes when you're defending them, you sort of feel like you're stranded on an island almost because they're so low in compared to the elevated positions that the defenders are able to retake from. So you really have to try and find a good way to navigate that post plant if you have some kind of a flank coming through. But to spare the talking of how Split plays out as a map, we will just be going straight into agent select. There's no more time to really speculate. We will be getting those picks locked in. And funnily enough, Thomas has actually flexed onto that breach
There we
after all.
go. Yeah, deciding to move away from that Sky and head for the breach. And I'm excited. It's oftentimes teams tend to stick to their guns. They try and go as far as they can with the comps that they know and love. But moving agents around is nice to see. Dice back on the chamber. Honestly, I think that's the right decision, Hazard, with how much of an impact that player had moving off that chamber. Although it's not the strongest on this map compared to the ones, because it's really strong anyway, no matter what map it is, just because it's slightly less effective here on Split because the angles aren't as favorable to an operator. Still should be putting that agent on, and kind of we mentioned towards the beginning that Cypher can be really, really important, but with how much Chamber brings to the table, as well as having the trademarks to kind of do Cypher's job for him, there's not a lot that you can justify losing all that other util that Chamber can bring with regards to damaging abilities. But we should get the final two locks in from Flip and Justice. And Nako back on that raise. Deviate still sticking to that Omen 4 on the Jet. Depressed has moved off the Sova, this time opting in for the Sage. I think they are going to be looking for some mid control here. They've got that raise nade for throwing towards the bottom. They've got the Sage wall. They should be able to keep that wall past that initial phase where the HP is much lower by pressuring with some of that utility they have. And the other side might be going for something similar, obviously, with the Breach and the Sage as well.
Yeah, I mean, having that combination in utility, the paint shells and slow orb from the Sage and the Raze respectively, is so strong, especially if you posture it towards the B side of the map. You have control towards mid, control, dunking down onto those players that try and make their way out of B main. So great utility to be bringing forward. Also, it has to be said, with the defenders comp that we're seeing at the moment, Astra and Breach, a combination of those two can be really, really deadly. Those fault line stuns into gravity wells can have a lot of potential value if used correctly. So coming into this pistol round, yeah, the lineup that we see from SG Bandits, they've not really deviated too much. It is just that Sova dropping out of the lineup, but really in retrospect, that makes a lot of sense considering it's split. Don't really see a Sova used, but like you said, mid control early on being taken by the attacking side of SG Bandits, and we see this so often. Just getting control of vents early on is huge, because it gives them an opportunity to go anywhere else. But like you said, that Sage Wall / barrier orb going up straight away has to be somewhat questioned. And well, Justice is going to answer to it. Finds one there, but gets pinched between those players. Melon loses their life as well. And well, this is flipped on its head. It's a fantastic opportunity now to get that spike down uncontested.
Yeah, deviates. It's actually a little bit risky. Could have been swung from heaven if they were a little bit more aggressive. The spike does go down to Preston Nako. Nako finding 2 with the Sheriff in hand, and it's now turned into a 3-on-1 with so little HP remaining. Dice went huge in the previous game, but in the first round of the second map will not be able to do the same, as Nako finds a triple. We do see the SG Bandits start off with a lead. Always a good sign, you know, for them to pick up the initial round on their map pick. You know, it starts to get a bit worrying if it doesn't fall that way.
Yeah, well, it must be said that SG Bandits did actually pick up the pistol round on the previous map, on the initial half, and then it was the Birmingham Bulls that won the second pistol round. So maybe we're going to be seeing a complete repeat. It would be a surprise if the 2-0
another
11-13.
Is that
yeah, potentially on the cards. That fault line comes out initially as they try and contest. A couple of players stunned, but 4FM will just take out Dice with the judge. Once again, that slightly more premier weaponry just gets completely dropped. Thomas with a nice double dink onto them will lose their life, but effectively, once more, control of the site will fall into the hands of the SG Bandits. Kazuto playing this angle towards the plant, seeing what they can find, lines up a couple, but is only able to find just the one. Thomas on the low HP will be supported by Justice, who is looking pretty healthy and also has a Spectre in their hands to try and work with. Nice double up here. Will try and cause them problems, but they've done the first one already. That stun nearly collects, but deviates with a lovely spray transfer on the Spectre. I mean, can you even call it lovely at that point in time? It's the Spectre. That gun is absolutely wild. Either way, a 2-0 advantage early on. And we find ourselves in a bonus round with a couple weapons kept over, but not as clean as they maybe would have liked.
Yeah, it's they're actually not even going to play for the bonus round here. It looks like they're just going to buy the rifles up. They don't want to play with sheriffs or anything. They just want the rounds on the board. They don't want to give anything away to their opposite numbers of the Bulls. So it will be a couple of Phantoms, Vandal, and 2 Spectres rocking out. They probably want to send Deviates and Depressed in pretty aggressively at the start to try and take some of that flak. 4FN dashes in with that Omen utility as well and finds the pick onto Justice. 5-on-4 now. 1 player stuck on site. 2 players rotating to heaven very, very quickly. They've got to execute onto A very fast, otherwise they're going to be in a bit of a pickle. Nako not looking the right way, and Melon finds the head. Deviates wants to try and get onto site to secure the bomb plant, but Thomas gets picked off by Kazuto. 3-on-2. The flank is coming in from the Sage, and wow, this chamber's taken a long time to rotate. Going to be coming on into heaven now, but we still haven't actually had the plant. It does finally go down.
I mean, it has to be said, this retake so far has not been ideal. These staggered picks trickling into the hands of the SG Bandits players on the A site means it's so much easier to defend. Kazuto's position may be looking to be sought out, and, well, it will be Flip that eventually finds them. 2 more stacked up. They're going to want to stagger this one a little bit better. There we go. Flip able to get a triple, but Undepressed will find the mirror pick, and it's a 3rd round on the board. It wasn't the cleanest of anti-ecos for them, but buying into this bonus round, that little bit extra, making it almost somewhat of a gun round, means that they're slightly on the back foot in terms of weaponry up against Birmingham Bulls, but they find it nevertheless, and that is the key factor, because now their economy still yet to recover. They will be reaching that full loss bonus, but it's not a situation that you want to be in whatsoever, Hanno, because now they're losing so many rounds on this preferential defender side, I suppose. there's a lot that they've got to try and claw their way back into this one, or we will just be going straight to that third map.
Yeah, I mean it's early doors to be calling it already, but losing the first 3 rounds on when you're on the defender side is a pretty bad sign, especially the way they execute that retake, as you sort of commented, it was pretty poor. They're going in one-on-one, taking some jewels that perhaps they could have waited a few seconds for some teammates to come and help them with. Are they aware that Flip has actually crossed on back? Melon will draw the fire. They think Flip's made any noise. They're not aware. Flip swings out here, could get 2, finds 1, looking for the second. Press takes a tiny scratch of damage, but it's not very much. The Bulls finally in a bit of an advantage. 4-on-2 here. The revive comes out. Thomas not accurate at all on the ropes. They can't do much. And this absolutely collapses. SG Bandits now turning it around from a 4-on-2 to a 3-on-2 in their favor. Bomb is in hand. They're going to go back through towards Vents. Are they aware that Justice is on the flank? They now are. As Justice with just a classic in hand. Not got the Bucky. Are they ready? There's one. Looking for more. They do decide to run on back. And actually, Breach has already left the B site. They should be able to get a plant here.
Oh,
will they be prepared for Breach to be in B main? They should try and clear it. Press is kind of looking, does know now exactly where this player is, but kind of stunned up. Thomas finds 2v1 and deviates, stuck in the corner. They know exactly where he is. Justice swings out and finds him. And that's the Bulls with their first round of the half.
That is such a good round. I mean, it has to be said, from the SG Bulls, with what they were working with, it's so ratty across the board, it must be said, but they still get it either way. We had a situation where Flip was using that last little chunk of the wall to try and stay alive. They're good for one in that situation. Melon can cause some problems as well. That gravity well actually doubled up the damage of the Bucky to get that one over the line. Justice then finds a Bucky of their own in Salvation. They're able to send them packing back through the vents. Perfect stun from Thomas. We know what they're capable of on the Sheriff. It was a few body shots in that scenario, but just pushing those margins ever further, keeping that one moving. And now that they have a round, it's a flipped script. That economy not looking so great anymore. They're able to get full rifles, and this one suddenly feels a lot more competitive early doors.
Certainly does. There's Flip with an early wall towards B heaven. We'll hear a lot of noise towards the bottom of middle, but won't be able to do much to prevent them pushing on up. There's obviously that chamber over towards the A site. The other 4 all towards middle. They'll see the wall. Will they decide to push it? Realistically, they should be heading towards A here with where their fellow teammate is positioned, but the read kind of has come out from the Bulls here. They've stacked 2 players towards that heaven area, ready for this pop to come on out. 3 going to come up from the bottom of ramp, 2 going to come out vents. They're ready for the pop, and there's no rotate coming in yet. There's no information for the Bulls, and in comes the Executors 4, looking for 1. Kazuto finds the first. Justice does get dropped, but it's 2 for 2 still. Depressed finds the entry on site, and it's the 2 rotating through CT. They're going to have to get the retake here. 4 is very low.
4 is very low, but they're trying to play this angle as best they can. That's a quick one to just keep these players guessing. I think this is just going to be a full rotate all the way through sewers, but I don't know of that position. And now Melon probably in the worst spot you could possibly be in, out on rafters with players circling in. I'm Depressed takes them out, and we are back to scheduled programming. Bandits have found another round, and well, yeah, Birmingham Bulls not looking as great as they had been on that one. And once more, the economy slides over that knife's edge. And it doesn't really look like either team is settled in this matchup. I know the rounds are giving that advantage inherently to the attacking side of the SG Bandits. But right now, I mean, yeah, neither team in the most comfortable of positions, it must be said.
Yeah, I mean, the Heaven setup from the Bulls looked a bit janky. I don't know how familiar they are with this map as Dice finds 2 with that tour de force, looking for the 3rd in towards middle, but it's Justice that will find the 3rd kill of the round for the Bulls. And they did need something to spice up the rounds here, as they were looking at a rather dire scoreline. But with those 2 picks from the chamber, again, it's the chambers that are finding all the entries in these games.
Mm.
Definitely the correct way or one of the correct ways to play that age is to be so aggressive because of how quickly you can escape. Flip being very cautious over towards this B side. Both players are in B tons, not aware of that, but just being careful they won't get instantly dropped. Spots both players, I think, and should be able to delay it for their team to rotate. There's 3 players here. There should be no chance at a plant.
Yeah, it's not even going to be safe passage across. That slab of the barrier orb will soon disappear, and now, well, Deviates and Depress are going to have to deviate away from this one, or they may be feeling kind of depressed with the outcome. There's 3 players stood in wait. I believe it's Kazuto towards mid, or no, it's Dice, sorry, who's already, you know, collected a couple of names early on with that tour de force, really just putting the attack, stopping it in its tracks as soon as it had really started. And yeah, both of these weapons are just going to go ahead and get saved. Bladestorm also getting a bit of action. I think it must be said, it's one of those rounds where, you know, ultimate abilities can have so much value. With Neon now coming into the agent pool as well, you're looking at 3 different agents that have effectively a high-tier weapon to bring forward with no economic value whatsoever. So it's going to be a great thrifty round for them to find. And yeah, just another reason why this comp can be so strong, having a Jet and a Chamber at your disposal.
Yeah, you can have incredibly powerful ability weapons that, you know, essentially can one-shot very, very easily, especially if you've got a good aim on your Jet. You can have them on both sides, and then where do they go? You know, if they get a little bit unlucky with those timings, or they walk into the wrong angle, the Chamber shuts them down, and there's not a lot they could have really done there. Their smokes were obviously not prepared for an op to be in that position. Nako going to go in with the showstopper. Doesn't see anyone just yet. Finds one, but completely whiffs, and might be able to find him with the classic, but cannot, as Thomas secures the kill onto Nako. Justice is still alive, forced off into the back of that heaven position. Kazuto has found a trade at least into a 4-on-4. The Chamber for the side of the Bulls is on this A site with all of their trademarks and utility up. They should be very comfortable at getting an early warning if this A hit does decide to come on in. I think the Bandits might be thinking, you know, might be second guessing themselves as they do walk away from the A towards this B site, which does kind of have the stack here. They are rotating it off though. This might be terrible timing for the Bulls.
Yeah, well, Melon in towards Spawn will get that quick rotate if the trademarks are activated, but they won't be. It's a bit of a staggered push because Kazuto's taking their time to join the others here, but that wall is really good because it's forced the only one there to try and defend it back, and well, Flip is in defender's spawn, so they can't even contest this whatsoever. Those stray shots from the press won't connect. Well, actually, Flip's chained a double. Melon backs it up with another. And Kazuto, that staggered player we're talking about, is the only one left to do anything. They lose their life as well. And that deficit once again reduced. The defenders with a second successive round. And now you have to worry just a little bit for the SG Bandits. They were able to get some good rounds on the board early on. Admittedly, it is a pistol and an anti-eco conversion, so it doesn't maybe carry as much weight. Naturally, you know, all rounds are equal to the same. But in terms of confidence, in terms of how they're currently playing with momentum, not as much. And, well, we see that reflected in the buy here. Only going to be the one Vandal, a Sheriff to see if they can't snap a shot or two. But, yeah, worrying signs at this point in time. Good control taken as well by Thomas towards B main. With 4 players in towards mid, it's a difficult scenario. Kazuto will lessen some of that pressure, taking Dice out of the game.
And is Flip aware that how close that Jet can be? Like, I think he was jumping and just got the wrong timing.
Yeah, I don't think so. So this is one that has to be cleared out. For FN, if they peek out though, could potentially give away a freebie as long as that knife isn't there. But the back is turned. It's absolute chaos at this point in time, and Kazuto is living through it all as they found both of the entries so far. And then F4FN finds another as well. 2 versus 5 on what was a very difficult round for them to find. And this should be a free plant also if Justice isn't posted up in time, which I don't think they are. Dark cover comes through. and potentially another round squandered here as they look to save.
All 5 players alive for the SG Bandits with let's put it this way, a very shoddy buy.
Yeah.
You know, and Breast and 4FN on just sheriffs walking around the map, still able to pick up those kills. And yeah, it's frankly quite amazing that SG struggled on a couple of those rifles. Yet this is the round that they managed to pick up. Good timing, to be fair, found by 4FN. I think that's realistically, unless he was timing it based on how the Sage was jumping, probably just a little bit lucky that they didn't get spotted. And then that Sage was so worried about B main that they turned around and 4 was able to find that entry onto that B site. But the problem here is that all the SG Bandit players are living. They'll have saved as many of the rifles as they could, and as much data as possible. So their economy will be looking pretty good going into the maybe it's not quite as good, but they've got 5.5k on Nako there, 4.5 on 4. They can be pretty confident with a decent buy next round as well.
Yeah, I think it would have taken that round to go the way of Birmingham Bulls actually to, you know, cause some problems for that economy, because it really had started to build itself up. They were only able to salvage one of the rifles because it was just a singular in an attainable position. But yeah, money looking good. Kazuto finds both of the openers on what was a very slow round. The fact that they were able to get a pick towards A, rotate all the way to B before the second was found is interesting. But now it's going to be that A push straight up. All 5 players looking to go in, and Dice gets the first. Rolling Thunder to slow things down, and well, it's looking disjointed. Dice is just capitalizing. A triple for them from the back site. And just like that, we are reduced once again to this 2 versus 5 situation. We saw it a couple of rounds ago. They opted to save on that occasion, but with how swiftly this one has gone, and 1 minute left on the clock, do you not think that maybe they want to try and see what they can find? I think Deviate right now needs to get some kind of a pick to make this anywhere in the realms of possibility.
Yeah, they've got to bear in mind that it is a 2v5, and with the money that we saw at the start of this round, it would actually be quite beneficial for at least one of them to save a rifle, and that would allow a buy next round. But actually, they get the revive off, and it's now turned into a 3v3, a very, very possible round. That's all pretty much off the press going huge. Yet again, was doing so well on the Sova, swapped over the Sage, and doing incredibly well as well. 4FN does manage to secure that trade. Depressed just racking up the kills. That's 3, that's 4 for Depressed as they push their team to 6 rounds. And this Sage having quite the game here. Well deserving of that little gold outline on their champion skin. Is currently top on the scoreboard with 11 kills and only 3 deaths.
Yeah, I mean, they got the champion's aura. They'll still be a few weeks away from, you know, potentially lifting that trophy. But at this point in time, you know, yeah, that is just the prime example of what I was saying. Rounds can really change in an instant. And like that, you know, we saw there was still so much time left for them as Dice had found a really nice early triple. But that one has to sting. Depressed goes huge. And, well, as Thomas pushes up towards this B main position, it's a freebie for Nako to capitalize off of from that corner. Now, with 5 players left standing and that slight deficit that we see for the defending side of Birmingham Bulls, it just means that they can manipulate this one however they want to. You know that you're always going to have that advantage no matter which side of the map you try and attack. So now, it really just has to be that improvement on their, you know, mid to late round calling where they maybe struggled a little bit before. We want to see that improvement. The spike, I mean, as I'm saying this, is very far away from those 2 teammates B main, and I think the call is eventually coming through that that's where the hit will be. Not exactly the most understaffed of spike sites that they could be taking here, but as Melon peeks out through the dark cover there, that's going to be a freebie. Justice takes out 4FN, but that will be all she wrote. Nako on a triple now, and yet another round it looks like for the attacking side of SG.
I would love to know whether Deviates placed that dark cover at that angle and at that height on purpose, because the reason 4 was able to find that pick was because that player was that their legs, their feet were actually still showing underneath the dark cover. I'd love to know if DVH
Mm.
planned that. Maybe, if he makes the finals and there's an interview or something, maybe that's a question that could be asked of DVH if he does plan his smokes that way, because definitely delivered them a free kill. I don't think it really affected the round too much. I'm pretty sure SG
Mm.
had this one in the bag, but still an interesting little tidbit there of how
Yeah.
you could make your omen smokes that little bit more effective.
I think maybe it is a slight over analysis. I'm sorry to say, Anno, but I think
Oh,
sometimes
you don't think these
you,
uni
no,
CS
no, no. To be
uni
fair,
Valorant players this
I think
good?
sometimes you do see omens choose to place their smoke with a little bit of height on it, so that it
Yeah.
will sort of descend its way down. So, like, I do agree. I think the real issue there was Melon didn't know whether they wanted to take that fight or not, so they got
Yeah.
themselves stuck in the sort of half mind as to challenge it or not. And in the end, it means that they're split in half by an omen smoke, and they can't really see anything and make good of it, and they're on the receiving end in that scenario. The first timeout of this second map, we only saw one come out on the first map, and I believe that it was from SG Bandits for them to... oh no, it was from Birmingham Bulls, sorry,
It
to
was.
just get those last few rounds over the line when we
It
were
was very
at that
effective.
10-11 deficit. And well, like you said, it worked out well for them. How much value will it bring to maybe secure these final 2 rounds for Birmingham Bulls this time on the defense? I mean, what do you change here? Hanno, we're seeing 2 guns picked up already. I'm not sure if that's the game plan or if it's soon to be revoked, but there certainly isn't too much cash in the hands. So one of these 2 rounds will be more improvised than the other. It's just a case of which, you feel.
In my opinion, it would be safest to go with a half buy here and then opt into the full buy next round. So at least you're going into that half with hopefully a 4-8. Going for the buy here is greedy, and if you lose this, you are going to lose the second with a very, very rough force buy.
Oh, look at this.
So much aggression towards that B horse, but I don't think they want to go in off it just yet. They're making so much noise. They actually do want to run in off this, and the defenders, there are all 4 of them out of the 5 are here. The flash goes in. It's almost not able to capitalize quite yet. And I think these attackers thinking twice about running in to B just yet. They did hit quite a lot of utility get thrown down. Should have the read that there's a couple more than 2 on this B site.
Yeah, they're just going to scamper all the way back. And I mean, the point you made previously is we have some time in rotation, in transition, about that Omen smoke. We see a similar thing with that Astral smoke there as well. It's a little bit elevated, so it makes it more difficult to challenge. But speaking of Astra, there's plenty of utility here that can be used as they try and push in. But what capitalization can be made? Nada from Melon. Not quite able to get anything from that, and we're in another retake situation. We saw the retakes were good before, but not on split. They've not quite been up to par, it must be said, at this point in time. Thomas gets a double, so now things are looking a little bit more doable. That fault line will clear out one of these angles, but Kazuto perched up, very, very passive, just waiting for these players to descend into the spider's web. Neko and Kazuto will combine to find one, and well, it is that player on Chamber that will seal out the round as well with a follow-up from the cubby position. 2 players left standing. A fairly comfortable round, it must be said, for SG Bandits. Now, it's that 8-4 scoreline we were looking for. Birmingham Bulls, they've got to find this one. They made sure that they... Well, I say that they made sure that they had money to invest, but it's going to be 2 half buys coming through into these last 2 rounds.
Yeah.
I think this may be, if you're really stretching it, is the one eventuality where they're able to find both rounds. If they do some kind of a half buy, it enables them to have decent enough weapons on both occasions. But yeah, not a situation you want to be in. Thomas will make it a little bit easier, but instantly they lose their life, and it's only the 3 knives left in the Blade Storm of Justice that are going to have to unsheath themselves into some of these players. Flip able to find one. Dice with another of their own, but it's an absolute chopping block. A guillotine / slaughterhouse scenario on the B site. The Cosmic Divide will come through from Melon, but it's just them to retake this one. Not only that, Kazuto's back on their feet, and what a player to be taking position in this post-plant.
Definitely the player in the late round that's been standing out for this side. The teleport. Oh, Melon's so confused, but still finds 2. Looking for the third, but Deviates
Oh, what?
is behind them. I think that was a very smart double TP
Yeah.
from the Omen there, teleporting through the Astral Wall and then teleporting back through behind the player. Very, very smart. I think you're not giving Deviates enough credit here, Hazard. I think University Valorant might just surprise you. Back in your day, you know,
this is
this stuff, but this is modern University Valorant. This is high level play.
Okay, you know, I've not been out the scene that long. I think it's fair to say that I've been here longer than others. Back in my day, it would have been Fornic making those kinds of plays on the Warwick of old. But no, it is Deviates on this occasion. Yeah, Deviates won't be picking up a shotgun, which I think some will be happy to see have left in times gone by. But yeah, that was really nice. I think what it is, it's the Cosmic Divide. Because it adds that sort of muffled effect to the sound cue, it means that you really don't get that same kind of information. And, well, Justice has opened things up. Maybe this is a more attacker-sided map. It depends how you play it. They do have that Breach Jet combo, which could yet be abused. And, well, it is the first duelist of the defensive side which has lost their life. And actually looking at the Agent lineup, don't feel that they've got too much stopping power here. I mean, there is that combination of the paint shells and slow orbs still left in play, but Chamber isn't exactly, you know, a prime sentinel. They're so much more offensive in the way that they play. They've almost got 3 duelists on their side, and with the amount of utility that is brought to the table by the attacking Birmingham Bulls, you've got to question it, but they're just hitting straight back. It's a complete lineup. What? An ace from Deviates. Deviates completely from the plan I was setting up. That's the script torn in half. Double digits just like that. And SG Bandits looking very, very strong on this map pick.
Deviates, if you ever watch this VOD, please, please, please post a clip of that. I want to be tagged in that. I want to see exactly how all those ghost shots lined up, because that looks like it might have been absolutely beautiful. A full-on ace for the Omen. And, you know, Fornic was only good with the shotgun, so maybe Deviates, you know, a new caliber of Omen player for University Valorant, as the SG Bandits have pushed to 10. And you were saying that they're playing this triple duelist setup. It's clearly working out well for them, as they are out-aiming and out-dueling everyone here on Split, as it keeps on continuing. Nako chucking that paint shell towards the back of site. Won't kill anyone just yet, but Kazudo doing some damage. Nako does another, and it's just a 2v1 now, as I'm depressed. He doesn't even need a real gun. He's just going to rock up with a pistol, and it can all happen through the power of the sidearm. 11 and 3. You know, usually you start talking about the 9-3 curse when you see that kind of half time, but SG Bandits have managed to pick up the first and the second round, and frankly, this split has been very, very one-sided. There was a couple of rounds in there where the Bulls were able to creep on in, some lucky picks by Dice, and Justice maybe was able to carry them on over when they were on that defense. But they could be 2 rounds off being equalized here.
Find rounds 1 and 2. They've also found pistol rounds 1 and 2, which statistically will give them about a 70% chance of finding this map. They've looked a lot better in it so far, and that is going to be an interesting one to give away, as we are now in that first gun round. But yeah, SG Bandits looking a lot more comfortable on this map. Struggling somewhat in this round, but it has to be said, Birmingham Bulls need to show that they have that mental fortitude to see this one out when it will potentially go to that third map. For the time being, speaking of threes, we've got 3 players on either side, and this is a retake that could really go either way. We said how defensive you have to sit, how pushed back you are in these sites, and that Raze utility could really help them unlock this one. Nako on the Spectre will be the head of the snake as it curves its way in from that ramp position. Justice playing from behind the TV screen will try and hide. 4FM finds one, and yeah, now it is just Justice left alone. They really need this round to deny the match point. The 2 jets clashing around the smokes, but Justice is the king of the win this time. 4FN gets dropped. 4-11 reads the score. And Birmingham may be down at this point in time, but they're not out just yet.
Yeah, again, you can be as close as you want to the number 13, but if you never actually make it there, you can't win the game. Which is It's very obvious, but I thought I would point that out. You know, if you have forgotten SG, you still need 2 more rounds. And frankly, they've had some pretty astounding ones already. I'm pretty sure they've got it in them to push it to a game 3, which will be Breeze, which, you know, we talked about. We both like the map. Looking pretty exciting if we do get to go to Breeze. And that's really where I think we'll start to see some innovation in the comp. Certainly the KO stuff might come on out there, but we have to wait and see how this map goes first. 4FN tucked behind that box. Thomas being very careful about walking up there. I think does want to check it, kind of pre-aiming that box. So Thomas really must be expecting this. Oh no, Justice not expecting it quite as much as Thomas was, does get dropped, and 4FN can get out. Nako, the paint shell's doing huge damage, and that actually knocks out the breach as well. Flip does get a response, but it's a 4v3, and yet again the SG Bandits heavily favored here in this round. They have 3 players towards B, and all the players for the Bulls are here as well.
It's that res online for the attacking side, and a slight piece of wall maybe makes it a bit easier for it to go up, means that there's no straight angle from Mail to contest it. Satchel will come out from the defending side to just, you know, slow down the pace a little bit, but that Rolling Thunder will be perfect. It manages to tag out both players. The stunned rays of Nako has to tuck their tail between their legs, but it doesn't matter because they're swinging it all around and slapping these players in the face. A 4K for them means that now it's Flip isolated towards Spawn. Gets a triple of their own, and well, it'll have to be a quad of their own to see it out before FN poised perfectly to clinch that one. 12 rounds now on the board for SG Bandits, and it's looking like we will be going to that 3rd map of Breeze, Hanno.
It certainly is, with the pretty sorry state of affairs that the Birmingham Bulls economy is in. I think they're only able to get out 1 rifle. They're putting it on their star player, they're putting it on the Jet, so the correct player there, because the Jet's so close to that knife, might be able to, you know, get an initial pick, pull the knives out, and then chuck that Vandal to a friend. You know, there's an avenue there to a round win. Quite slim, but it could happen. The SG Bandits aren't great as well. They're running 3 Spectres, but they only need to win one round, and they've got 8 rounds to do it in. So they've got so much breathing room, so much space, and they're going on to their A site aggressively. Justice with the first Flip, and Thomas respond as well, as that's 3 picks for the Bulls. And SG Bandits looking a little bit rogue there. Nako coming on in with the retake, has secured 1, and with the showstopper up as well. If they shoot that on towards the backside, they could do huge, but it's depressed yet again. This player's come out clutch in so many different situations as they find 2. Dice with 2 more shots left on this Tour de Force. Waste 1, just 1 shot on the Tour de Force. Doesn't have a gun available. Has to go for this peak, low on HP, and Depressed is holding it for it. Hits the shot, and Depressed yet again another round, which keeps happening. Goes absolutely huge, but can't quite win out that 1v1.
Yeah, maybe just doesn't quite have the bottle to get it over the line. I think that's a very harsh way of putting it, because they have put up great performances thus far, and
yeah,
well, with that chamber, it was the final shot in the chamber that was the one that took them down. Dice with a little spicy flick at the end there to see things out. 5 rounds now on the board. Just slowly trying to creep their way back into this one, but if trends are anything to go by, this should be an SG Bandits round. They've traded round for round time and time again. And, well, that wasn't the best, so now they're going to have to try and work with a Spectre. With that being said, Deviates only has a Classic, so not much to be done in that scenario. Thomas will cement some Vents control to try and slow down these rotates. There is still a player lurking towards the backside to try and slow things down, and while Depressed has found 1, they will get traded out by Flip, but yeah, Thomas keeping that presence felt will just try and tickle a few of these players. It's such a weird round right now. Fights going on all across the board. It's 2 versus 2, but they're so split up from one another. Once again, it's a 1 versus 1 to seal out the series, or the map, sorry.
Kazuto with the Tour de Force just has to find 1, and this time it's Thomas that comes out on top, securing a 4K and pushing themselves to 6 rounds. And if this trend keeps continuing, I mean, the rounds are really tight. Eventually, SG Bandits surely must find their last round, but the Birmingham Bulls, there is still a hope. the Bandits have actually been forcing every round here. I think they're pretty desperate just to finish this map off and get on over to that map 3, no matter how much it costs them. And maybe that's not the right play here. Maybe you want to, chill, not buy that Spectre and Guardian, and play for the rounds where you have full util, full ults, and you can just be sure that you've got a perfect execute to come on out. But at the moment, they're working with scraps, and they're trying their best to win a game with it.
Is the problem though as well with the way the economy works? Obviously they have a big advantage right now, but the longer they try and play for that, you can lose clumps of rounds at a time, because Yuto able to get justice. Depress finds one there as well and is hunting out for more. That's a second headshot, blinded, can't quite get the third, but with only Dice left standing, it must be said this is looking like a difficult one to recover from. A res to try and bait for a swing, but it's 4FN that seals the deal. That operator will be the nail in the coffin. 13-6, a very convincing performance then in the end that we see coming out from SG Bandits. And they've responded. Birmingham Bulls, we maybe questioned if they could see this one out. And well, we're going all the way to a map 3.
We certainly are, and Breeze, what a map it will be. I cannot wait to see what these teams have to bring out there, with such a close map 1, and then SG Bandits taking their map in pretty dominant fashion. I want to say that game could have easily been over at 13-3, 13-4, but they, had a couple of rough 1v1s there that pushed it a little bit later than maybe they needed to. But certainly Breeze will be the decider, and the winner of Breeze will go on to that grand final, take that one map lead against whoever completes that lower bracket run. So all that remains to be said is to thank Twitch, Student, and Intel for supporting this tournament, and ask you all to come back in a few minutes when we're back with map number 3.
Live 17 floors up, and when it rains, I can feel those drops in my window pane. Lets me know that I'm still here. But when the sun comes out, I will go outside. When it breaks through clouds, I will give a smile. Lets me know that I'm still here. Sometimes I want to run away, to find good times again, to find all my old friends. Times I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and I live 17 floors up, and when I cry, I can see the city through my watered eyes. Lets me know that I'm still here. When my eyes clear up, I will go outside. I'll imagine you're still by my side. Lets me know that I'm still here. Sometimes I want to run away, to find good times again, to find all my old friends. Run away, to the nearest place where I'll find all my old friends. Times I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and good times. I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again, and we left this town with the speakers loud and the radio playing old Sublime that we stole online, every verse we know. And we hadn't had a clue if we'd make it by noon or even where we'd go. We don't need
Welcome back, everyone, to the final map of the night here in the Newell Valorant Varsity Upper Bracket Finals. The winner of this map, which will be Breeze, goes on to the grand final and will be starting off with a map advantage against whoever comes out of that lower bracket run. So a very important decider here, and obviously this entire tournament and match and broadcast made possible by Twitch, Student, and Intel. So thank you to those partners. Now, Hazza is back with me again, and Hazza, what do you have to say about Breeze? Because you talked about liking this map at the start. What makes it so different from those first two we've seen earlier? And what are you expecting to see from these teams?
I think more than anything, it's the difference between those beta maps. I don't mean beta as in
Beta is
as in like, you know, Chad and
inferior.
beta or anything like that. But the maps that we saw that have been in the map pool, obviously since Valorant was in its beta stage. So I'm talking about
Yeah.
Split, Bind, and Haven. Those 3 ones specifically. Haven was obviously banned out, but we've seen Bind and Split from both of these sides. Breeze, one of the later maps to make its way into the pool. Icebox was a test, I feel, on some of those longer angles, but Breeze really takes it that step further. We're going to be seeing loads of operator plays. I would not be surprised whatsoever to see a jet and a chamber combo come out once
Yeah,
again. I mean, if
very
we've seen
possible.
it on Split, we're certainly going to be seeing it again here. In terms of agents, you said initiators wise, we might be seeing a KO come through, but I'm not entirely too sure, to be honest, because with how comfortable these teams have been on, you know, picking up a Sky, maybe for Thomas example, on a map like Breeze, I think Sky, this is one of her best maps to try and play with.
Yeah.
And I think the issue with KO sometimes that you get is that knife, it can be good, but with Breeze being so open, sometimes you miss out on those little bits of range. So Sova, I think, maybe likely to come back into the pool as well. I'm not going to write off KO completely because I think it is a very valid choice to be taking, but purely based on what we've seen from these teams specifically and what we know to be in their agent pool, I wouldn't be surprised if it was more like what we saw in Bind in terms of that comp, but I would be very surprised if we saw Raze on this one. We spoke about that a little bit before, how the paint shells don't really have that same kind of value because there are only a very select amount of pockets that you can really pump that damage worth of utility into. So will be really interesting to see what we get. And yeah, and I think Nako will be the one to focus in on what agent they choose because we've seen 2 games of Raze out of them. Where, you know, where do they pin the needle next? What is the next decision for them in terms of how they want to take this one? Agents obviously only being half the story. The fact that Birmingham Bulls lost that one in such a manner makes you worry a little bit about where their heads are at going into this third map.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is anyone's contest at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I saw SG Bandits on Breeze, 4FN moved off that gen onto the Viper.
Hmm.
Whether Nako, because the
Yeah.
Raze isn't really as viable, would move over to the Jet, I think if I remember correctly, again, my memory's a little bit foggy, that was what happened, but I
Hmm.
could be wrong there. But certainly, Nako's got to be on something different here. Whether they decide to, you know, keep 4FN on the Jet and then move Nako over to um, the Killjoy, not really an option, but definitely a
Hmm.
KO. I'm a big fan of the KO. I think it should be like pretty standard meta. Obviously, Sky's really, really strong this map as well with how open it is and how strong utility works with it. But you can run both a Sky and a KO if you forego that second duelist. We've seen a lot of double duelist tonight.
Hmm.
Maybe that's not the best play, I think, for Breeze. Certainly a Reyna, I think,
Yeah.
can be out of place quite often on Breeze because obviously that Leer is actually limited in range. If you don't know, there is like a circle which it
Hmm.
has to be inside for the enemy to be blinded. And there's a lot of angles that it doesn't really work well for. Obviously, you can play around that, but a KO flash, it blinds everyone and you just right click it. It's a pretty guaranteed pop flash. So I think if people are comfortable playing it, definitely want to see it come out. But I think you're also right as well. We're going to be seeing a Viper, we're going to be seeing a Jet, and we're
Hmm.
most likely going to see a Sova. It makes a lot of sense to pick
Hmm.
this agent up again. We'll have to see as we do go into agent select in just a second. Let's have a look at what these players start to pick up. And look, my
Ooh.
call is correct. Nako wants to hover that Jet for a Fen on the Viper. I am looking forward to this. I've been hyping it up all night, Hazard. And there we go. Depressed back on the Sova. I like that choice. Depressed showed an insane level of performance map 1 and map 2. Huge clutch plays. Not
Oh.
sometimes not quite able to fully pull it out, but certainly doing a lot of damage, having a lot of impact in so many of these rounds. And Melon, you beautiful person, you have brought out the KO. Do not let me down. I am rooting for you. And the double chamber, of course.
Yeah, I think the question of whether KO would make it to this matchup or not was purely based on what the agent pool had in store for them. And well, Melon has granted us our wish. No
Let's go.
Astra this time around, which I think makes perfect sense. We didn't really delve
Yeah.
too much into what controllers have to offer here, but I think Viper, it's fair to say, is the premium. Not really
S+.
much point in trying to bring in a Brimstone whatsoever because of that limited range on the smokes, only having 3 of them as well. Just not really adding too much. Omen, I guess you could maybe try and work it some kind of ways, but still not ideal. That screen wall is just the perfect way to split up any of these sites, like a pie waiting to be sliced. And looking at the lineups, it is just that initiated diff it will be, I suppose. Sova is a staple between the two, but Deviate going to be on the Sky. So, like, we're not even going to be seeing a situation where that initiator is picked up by someone else this time. And Nako on the Jet, like you confirmed as well. Those suspicions have been confirmed. So yeah, I mean, looking at these lineups, pretty good for the map. It has to be said. Teams adapting as they should. And now it will be a question of how this one plays out. Starting on the attacking side will be SG Bandits. They already have that advantage coming in from a map win on the previous timeout on Split, and they'll be looking to harness that momentum further. Toxic Screen goes up initially towards A, and there is a very aggressive mid push coming through here from Justice, and that is accompanying the Melon as well.
What a rotate.
Cleared them out, and well, there's already 5 players here waiting for that execute to come through. Nako can't quite connect those shots early on. They're dipping in and out of that screen wall like a curtain right now. And, well, it's curtains for neither side just yet, but the advantage does sit with the Birmingham Bulls for the time being.
Last player standing.
4FN has actually gone huger with these flanks and secures a third. And one thing I sort of mentioned at the start of the entire broadcast was how 4FN gets really aggro in that metal tunnel. And I'm not sure if Bulls were ready for it. It's something that they definitely, if they'd prepped well, could have been able to read, because 4FN did that, I want to say, about 8 times in a row the last time we saw Breeze from this team. And that abuse transfers into so many rounds for the team when they've got to be worried about A main and this metal tunnel. And 4FN shows it pretty well there with that triple kill, and I won't be surprised if that continues to happen throughout this map. I think shutting that down, and definitely this chamber is going to be the one to do it with proper trademark placement. But it's Nako this round that's finding a couple of kills. Now, I don't think there's any shields on the opponent, so it's pretty much one-shot kills, but still good double kill for them. And 4FN walking up through the toxic wall should be able to find this player as Thomas tries to find the pick, but with just a classic in hand, it's difficult. Oh, lovely flick from 4FN as he finds the head. Actually doesn't quite hit, dies through the wall there, but was ever so close. Going for the knife,
no.
But just decides to chicken out at the last moment. Oh, he gets it! Let's go! 4FN with the first knife of the series.
First and hopefully a last knife of the series there. Very embarrassing to happen, a situation you never want to be in there. Dice, who's been so good on that chamber so far, well, the headhunter will run empty, dry for bullets. Once that classic came out, it was a less than favorable situation, and well, 4FN has put them on a skewer. I said that you don't like to see it happen, but well, if we could be treated to another couple of those, I'm not exactly going to be against it. But this is the round that really counts. If Birmingham want to stay in with a chance, then they need to fight back and keep things as close as they can before it starts to get away from them. And what a better opportunity to do so than this. And invested early on. 4FN, very lucky to not quite get caught out by the recon dart, but they just overstep back into it, loses their life. But there's presence elsewhere. Towards the B site will be where that push comes in. Melon with the back turned. Unlucky from Nako not to quite find that one out, but yeah, just about stays alive, and that advantage sits with the defenders coming into a post plant. We do have the Sova lurking on the outsides here to just see if they can't play onto a long angle, but it's a wall of players versus a wall of players. A real standoff as they try and make their way back in. Those lurking towards main will need to be found out. They'll need to be found out fast. Kazuto drops first. Underpress still lurking and is good for one as well. The trades go on in towards the site. A 3 versus 2 still favors the defenders. But they've got players to find. That flash, no real value. The spike spike has ticked so far. The press can just keep them going on this angle. I think they'll just about get it. They do. The defenders find it. Keep it just about clean, I guess you could say, with 3 players alive, but not the most ideal. Either way, it's over the line and it's a round on the board.
After Prest had managed to find that final kill on towards that, well, not final kill, but that extra kill on towards that diffuser, they may have well been able to give their team the round, as it was only about 1.5 seconds spare on that spike timer, but unfortunately wasn't quite able to secure it. 4FN though, having the Viper ult ready and up at the start of the 3rd round, walking out through, in front of the Viper and dropping it. Unfortunate that they got tagged, mismanaging the recon dart behind them. So they did get spotted on through, but Dice just way overexposed there, and Kazuno's going to take that kill for free. Neko walks to the site, and Flip also overexposed, not ready for the player. Thomas, the back towards yellow here, not ready, but does find 3, completely ready. Justice finds the 4th, and it's just Kazuno left. 1 versus 3, full HP spotted on out, so much utility on top of him. Justice dashes behind, and the Bulls have evened up the scoreline. And it was looking, with how strong the performance was from the SG Bandits Viper, that it was, going to be quite a nice 3rd and 4th round. But with that pick in the 3rd round, and then a very strong performance from Thomas there at the back of that A site, they've managed to pick up 2 rounds in response to those initial 2 that the SGs got.
Thomas going absolutely huge there from the orange crate at the back of the site. I mean, after those openers, you really thought it was shifting the way of SG Bandits. But Birmingham Bulls, I asked for them to, make their way back into this matchup, and they have, over-exceeded the standard set already. Back to a level score. We find ourselves in an interesting situation. Hunter's Fury invested, but actually it's just enough to keep 4FN on their toes into the crosshairs of Dice, who finds them very nicely. Tour de Force in play, going to be holding down some of these longer angles. Flip does spot out that weaponry of Kazuto, I believe, so it's not one they really want to challenge as well. That shock dart onto Neko will put an early end to their impact in this round. No Sage on either side for the first time in this best of 3, so no res is happening. It's purely going to be 1 out in the 5 versus 5, and right now it's a 5 versus 2.
Neko, he's not on the Bulls, but he is definitely seeing red there, I think. Not going to be happy with that little Sova arrow there. Depressed.
I know, I'm very happy with that one. I feel like I was carrying the weight of the puns, but you've stepped up to the plate. The haha duo has once again reaped the rewards. So.
That's true. That is yeah, we'll make a Twitter fan account, and that'll be what we'll call it. Yeah, the haha duo. It works well. We just need a 3rd for a tri-cast, and we can really add on to that. We can extend this as far as we go. But I don't know of any other casters that start with HA, so
you know what we could do? I mean, we are really deviating away from the gameplay here, but there's not much to be said. It's a flawless there. Thought maybe the weapons would be safe, but they weren't. Very nicely done from Birmingham Bulls, as they found 3 in a row now uncontested. And, well, with it being the pistol round as well, the SG Bandits picked up. The pistol round's so interesting, right? Because it adds value in the way that it gets you off to a good start. But in terms of what it can really carry in terms of momentum, isn't always so much. And we're seeing that right now. Yeah. Going back to what you were saying earlier, of course, the duo, haha. I think if we duo casted League of Legends, it could be haha lol, and that would be quite good. But anyway, speaking of haha lol, this is quite funny. Flip has got a shorty inside of the Viper's pit. There are players nearby, but I'm not sure if they're going to contest this one.
I don't think they'll want to, and well, that shorty, pretty scary, gotta say. A favourite spot of mine is to lurk around that corner with a shorty, and you can get quite a few kills that people aren't really expecting. Thomas is pushed right on out here. Swings very, very wide, but trade a little bit late there, though. The press does pick it up. 4-on-4. Favouring the attackers. It's one of those things where going 1-for-1 like that, not really great for the Bulls here, as that means the SG Bandits have even more of the map to exploit. An early KO knife comes on down and doesn't tag anybody up. That's unfortunate. Melon still finds a kill off of it, though, but it's Depressed that finds the entry onto the site. 3-on-3 flip, though, playing around this Viper ult so well. 4FN, no idea where this player is, running and gunning, and flipped with precise gunplay there. Secures a very important kill that puts him to 3-on-1. And Brest gets tagged through the wall. So unlucky, SG Bandits. Well, the RNG generator not going in their favor today.
Certainly milking that one as much as they can. It was a little drive-by that got that one done. And while looking at the time here, don't think Depressed has any chance to win this one out unless they can get it on eliminations. Finds it onto Flip and goes chasing after Justice, but they sweep their way out using the Jet utility perfectly to have some kind of an escape plan in that round. And well, Justice through the side of the box. That was another very nice kill. I say very nice, maybe that wasn't the word to use on some of the other ones that we saw. Maybe cheesy would suit it a little better, but through the side of the box from Justice there, that one has to be the cream of the crop, I think, if we're talking about actual skill involved.
Yeah, I don't think 4FN's will be too happy if he watches the VOD back and just sees Flip just running from side to side, spraying with wild abandon and getting a free kill. But the Bulls doing well right now. You know, they're 4 up after losing the initial 2. This is certainly a good swing in the momentum for them, and if they can keep this up, they might be able to really threaten the Bandits here on Breeze. And again, this is the last map. No matter how long it takes, the winner of this game will be going on to the grand finals. There's a lot at stake, and teams may be starting to feel the pressure here as we go into game 3, as Nako yet again picked off towards a main. Maybe unfamiliar with how aggressive they can be with this agent, just keeps getting caught off in these positions. The frags come on in, but yet again, it's the Bulls coming out on top. 4-on-2. The buy still not that strong, of course, for Bandits. They're not expecting this round. They're still not making too much of a dent, but the throw! Deviates has got it into a 1v2 right now. That KO nade doesn't actually do very much. Actually, it does. Deviates walks right into it. I was like, oh, that's not going to land anywhere close, but Deviates still swings on out. And although they were able to secure a triple kill, fortunately, the rest of the Bulls don't throw quite as hard as their teammates and do manage to secure their 5th in a row. And you were talking earlier about how that pistol, it doesn't necessarily give you the same momentum that winning rifle rounds does, but it does give you that early lead. The problem as well is that you win the pistol and you think you're in a good position, but realistically, the way you play the pistol and the way you play the rifles is so different. And it always feels very strange when you go into that first rifle and you realize they're actually a threat now. And that pressure can affect how these players do decide to go into these rounds. And hopefully, you know, SG Bandits, they've been top of many different tournaments before and been in the top sort of positions. They hopefully shouldn't be feeling too much of the pressure, but their execute is falling apart as the Bulls pick off 4 with not a single player dropped in response. Flip finally does go down, but the press yet again, last alive counter, let's increase it. He's in a 1v4 and usually able to do a lot of impact, but not today as the Bulls go up 6-2. And I will say Breeze probably favored towards that defender side. I don't know if you'd agree, Hazza, but it's not too worrying that they're getting a lead. What will be worrying is if it becomes like a 9-3 or a 10-2.
I think it has to be said, it really depends on the way that you play it, I suppose. I think Split is one that maybe lends itself more to being arguably defender-sided on paper, but if you play it more well, if you play it correctly, can become attacker-sided. This one, though, I would argue is more attacker-sided in the first place because of how long those rotates are. If you're able to get a good execute in, find those picks, which DICE is denying straight away as 4FN loses their life, can be hard to try and retake. But there's players stationed here right now, so they can deal with this matter early on. Kazuto finds a really nice headshot from that headhunter. And, well, Justice has got to try and find something in the back lines. But once again, the sidearms reign supreme. Just like you said, Underpress won't be able to find that one as Melon gets it. But these are worrying signs here for the retake. I love the null command. Just dropping the pants there of Kazuto, who eventually meets their maker. But just like that, it's going to be a flurry of kills coming on through. And a thrifty round for SG Bandits in this situation. So I mean, if they come out of this with a more respectable scoreline, like 7-5, 6-6, something along those
Yeah.
lines, and they can at least get the majority of these remaining 3 rounds, then they'll be in a decent situation. So it's not too much to worry about. But right now, if you're Birmingham Bulls, you want to just get as many of these as possible, because while you have that momentum in your corner, you want to try and maximize it, essentially. And that round, lost there on a thrifty as well, is not going to be great for their efforts in
Justice
this
didn't
matchup.
see it get placed.
Yeah.
It was actually underneath their gun. That's unfortunate. But the execute comes on into B, and I believe the Bulls are trying to play a very retech heavy comp. They're spraying, and they have a little bit of utility available. No Hunter's Fury. The KO are obviously not up either, so they can't really nuke this site very easily, but they do have so many players alive here and a player advantage as well that they can afford to run on in and trade very, very well here, as Justice is doing. Hunter's Fury comes on towards main, and Dice running in with the tour de force out, trying to find the girls. Misses the shot. Oh, this is terrible. And 4FN gets the trade. It's a 2-on-1. Justice above. Can't really do anything with how tight range the Viper's Pit makes you play. And going on around the outside, HP slowly dropping on down. Now on 40. Going to be so low. Has to find this player. There's no time to defuse. And it will be the SG Bandits who pick up their 4th round. And that kind of even half is becoming ever more possible. You know, a 6-6. I think they'd be pretty happy with that. Honestly, with how the half started, you know, a 6-2 scoreline, starting to get a little bit worried. To bring it back to a 6-6, even a 7-5, you've got to be comfortable with it, and you've got to go into your second half with new ambitions and fresh new ideas as well. Now, we are getting a timeout here. I believe this is from the defenders. This is from the Bulls. Honestly, I think this is also another really good time to call it. They've been pretty smart with how they've been using this series, which we haven't seen yet from SG. Maybe in map 1, it could have been an option.
Yeah, I think, you know, you get, like, what is it? I think it's only 1 timeout per half or something along those lines.
I think that's
but
the rule.
Yeah, we've not really seen them used in abundance. You don't always get that at this sort of university collegiate level. But they've not shied away from it. They're going to deploy it in this situation. And I think it's good. It means that they've got 2 rounds left. They've still got money in pocket to try and work with. Just want to make sure that this one doesn't slip away from them, as the 6 rounds that they found are bookended by 2 on either side from SG Bandits. And something I want to mention, their reliance on playing for retakes. I know this is such an initiator-heavy meta, but the way that they've tried to vie for space there can sometimes be a struggle when you've got 5 players left on the board to still go up against, and you're relying on winning those ones out, especially when there's ults, you know, in play like the Viper's Pit. It can be very hard to work with. We'll see a Viper's Pit of their own get deployed here. Seeker's used as well, but not quite able to claim them. That's a great opportunity for Dice to open things up, but just shies away from that one. And it looks like A should be under control here for the attacking side. Justice will try and stop things, but as those trades come through, this is looking very, very good for Birmingham Bulls, finding a 3rd successive round for the first time on this map. Not only that, they have a flank through mid as well. And with that rotate taking so much time from the other Viper, this is looking very problematic. Aldrone also invested to no real value. And that spike timer is just going to keep on ticking down as all 3 come from the defender's side.
Depressed with a 3rd, and his teammates clear it up for him. And what a round for the Bandits, getting that site under their control, and absolute MVP, I've got to say, of that round. Depressed, starting off with the initial 2 kills, and then also landing a lovely shock dart onto, I believe it was Dice at the back of the yellow box, getting a perfect shock dart on there to put that chamber down to about 50-60 HP. Very easily spammable, and puts that operator player in a much less safe position. It's not more dangerous to peek out if you're only 1 or 2 bullets away from death, and then also able to follow up with a 3rd pick. So beautiful stuff from Depressed, who, frankly, for the entire series has been one of SG Bandit's best players. But it's the B execute that's come out this time, and it's Nako with the opening, looking for a second, and does find it. It is a trade, but it's still a 2nd kill and a player advantage, still leading the way of the Bandits.
I think Nako can try and play around this sound cue from the owl drone. I'm not sure they know of this position currently. They've got the steak knives out and they're ready to go to dinner. But what can they find? Will that plate come up empty? Yet to be seen, as they're just tucked away into that corner. Got a couple of these big-time ults in play, and well, they've managed to find the first, but that's all they can get. Flip with a double, gets sent to the chopping block by Deviates, and just like that, we're at 6-6. The scoreline now evened. We said, is this going to be a more attacking or defender-sided map? It's not really lent itself to either side. Once again, we see that momentum. 6 rounds in a row, met by a subsequent 4. And now, I mean, who is really going to hit the ground running on this second side? What stands in front of them is a potential opportunity to have that 1 map advantage in 2 weeks' time and go all the way to the grand finals. The other team will have to make it through the lower bracket, and that's not a situation that you want to be in. It's all left out in front of them. A pistol round, level. The stage is set, Hanno. Who is going to rise to the challenge?
Well, on the defense here, I do want to see Kazuto step up. Obviously, had such a strong performance all night on that chamber that, you know, maybe fatigue could be getting to them here at the end of this best of 3. But certainly has been a huge, important player for the SG Bandits throughout this half. Been able to get a lot of entries, make a lot of plays, but only 2 kills so far in 12 rounds here of that first half. So to win this series, I think he's going to need to step up. It doesn't matter though, as Depressed doing a lot of work. Thomas shuts him down. 4FN. Kazuto finds his 3rd kill of the series. 2-on-1. Kazuto, one of the players alive, and 4FN with him. Flip going to be walking on up. Has the half shields and full HP. Might catch both of them out. Finds one. 4FN. Actually, the player on higher HP is able to drop a little molly there and gets the flank. Perfect play from Flip. 4FN not expecting him to peek on through the middle, and a lovely 1v2 from Flip there. Huge Viper performance from the side of the Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, Flip, can you flip their PC upside down and see if they're not walling? The timing there was absolutely perfect. The way they just slipped through the side of that wall, I mean, it's so good. It almost sets itself up in the way that the player that's trailing in the form of Kazuto's on such low HP for them to find. But yeah, I mean, they must have dinked 4FN like 3 different times there in the end. And well, they win that one out, and you have to say it is more than deserved. 7-6 now. They have that advantage. We said, you know, maybe don't read too much into what this pistol round can do, but finding an early advantage on a half as important as this is huge. And well, Melon with a double like that, it is eco frags after all, but confidence is what they need, and they're going to be finding it there. Yeah, Depressed though does find one with the Marshall. Flip will maybe try and challenge them with weaponry of equal value. Kazuto's also holding on to one, but can't quite find that. They've chained another headshot here, I'm Depressed. But Melon has chained an additional 2. A quad for them now means that, well, Birmingham Bulls, they have the advantage for the first time in this matchup. And they are looking to be in a very good... Well, I say the first time in this matchup. After losing the advantage,
they've retaken
they have regained it. And look to be a different beast on this attacking side.
Yeah, I do have one question for you. How does flipping a PC upside down help you know if they're using...
Just give it a shake and see if anything falls out of it, you know?
Okay. I'm not an esports referee.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm sure ESL, they'd love to know about this new technique of yours.
Yeah. You flip it up, you flip it upside down, you give it a shake, and word.txt comes falling out. That is exactly how you do it.
Oh, that is enlightening. Deviates, though, with an initial 2 kills. Melon, actually dead, of course, can be revived, but Deviates spamming, knows that those players will be trying to revive, and finds Thomas through it. That's potentially 3 picks for Deviates, maybe even looking for a 4th. Depressed finishes off Melon. And SG Bandits hit back pretty quickly there. You were saying that the Bulls, you know, retook that advantage. But SG Bandits, once it gets to a rifle round, they certainly do mean business. And they stole that round from under the Bulls' nose.
They certainly did. And they'll be looking to aggravate them by leveling things up, pulling on that nose ring, if you will, of the Bull itself.
Oh, no.
And they do have once again, a Viper's Pit in play. You know, similarly to how we saw 4FN get it online so swiftly the previous time around, what can Flip make out of this one? Because last time, they sort of threw it away, and then off the back of that rifle round loss, they conceded 6 in a row. So let's see what they can do here. 4FN themselves has pushed up into this position. They spot out the gun barrel, but the peak isn't quite there for them. Justice will help clean things up. Thomas still on very good HP. The whole of this attacking Bulls roster right now looking very healthy. But the same certainly can't be said for SG Bandits. Deviates loses their head there as well. The map control is so weird right now, Hanno, because the rotates come all the way out of A. The spike is yet to be committed. Nako may yet be in a position to defend this one, but really, really staggered from all these players. And this could feed into them perfectly. Only good for 1, drops it to a 4 versus 2. So we will be doubling up on numbers for the attacking side. But yeah, still very hesitant to get that spike down.
Spike.
Do they know what the keybind is?
Press 4 as they do decide to go and put it down. Dice coming out huge there. This chamber's certainly not fallen off, even if the other might be having a momentary lapse. As Kazuto, unfortunately, just Breeze not working out for them, and Breeze is usually seen as kind of Chamber's primary map. When Chamber came out, everyone was like, oh my goodness, so strong, the tour de force on so many of these angles. It's an operator's paradise. But Kazuto just not managing to find it. Again, it could be any number of factors, and they've done so much work for the team the rest of the games. You can't pin this series at all on them, but certainly something to keep an eye out for, that this Breeze not working out so well for that opposite chamber. The 2-round lead, obviously, for the Bulls. Very, very strong, but also the Viper ult available. These jet knives going to struggle to find anything going through that Viper's Pit.
Held on to it for the time being, and it's now finally seeing some usage. 4FN loses their life, that other Viper player in the server, and so does Nako. Dice is just claiming names and scalping these players right now from that double door position. They might even spot out I'm Depressed as well. Goes for the slight pre-fire, but can't quite get it done. It will be Thomas that ends up getting them. And I mean, you know, going back a little onto Thomas, actually, I have to say, something we haven't really mentioned throughout this series so far is the use of recon darts from both of these Sovas, who are leading the way for each of their squads, has been second to none. There's been a lot of tags, I think, on these players, whether they've been converted into kills immediately or maybe taken that little bit longer and simply served the purpose of information alone. They've brought so much to the way that these teams set up, and now, with Birmingham Bulls on double figures, you have to say that Thomas has played a big part in that.
I think if you even generalize that, Thomas as a whole has provided a lot to the team. I'm right, I think, in saying that he played Sky on Bind, then went over to the Breach on Split, and is now playing the Sova. So a very versatile player for the Birmingham Bulls, topping the scoreboard as well here on Breeze. Certainly, you know, able to change up the agents to fit the map and then still keep up that performance is something that, you know, I think teams sometimes don't really sometimes take a bit for granted, some of these players. You know, you've got your King Jet going absolutely ham with the multi kills, but your support players are equally as important. And it's into a 4-on-4 and a lot of utility being invested into trying to find these attackers over on B. Flip does find the lone defender. And now the 4-on-3, going to be awkward retake as the tour de force is up as well. The Viper wall cutting across sight. Depressed going to struggle to see anyone. And that's an awkward shot to try and find onto the Jet. Can't land it. And what an awkward retake it is going to be. They are going to go for it.
They certainly are. Couple bits of utility that go forward. 2 players on very low HP, but they're almost paired up in a way that they can support one another. Justice does go dashing out into the open, which is a bit of a misstep. And well, now the advantage is with the defender's side. Just like that, it's flipped around. The Hunter's Fury, very preemptively used. I'm not really too sure what the thought process was there, but it's lent around straight into the hands of SG Bandits, who'll be very happy to pick that one up. And now the deficit is somewhat reduced. plenty of credits available here for the Birmingham Bulls side. Can't really be said for SG. However, that one will help them out a lot. This was a round that they could be coming into in an even worse economic situation. And Kazuto does have that tour de force, and this is something we want to see a little bit more from them. We said we wanted to see them step up. Maybe you have to build economy for that operator. They've not really been in a situation on this half where they've been able to attain the funds to do so. Now this is the perfect opportunity for them to show why they deserve a spot in that grand finals. The Aldrome will spot it out though, and I feel as if that may be an opportunity squandered as these players look to back away.
Yeah, they were kind of setting up for something towards that A site, got scared off by that tour de force, and looked like they want to head on over towards B. That Spike not committing quite yet to anything. They actually might just be kind of looking to get some info on that middle position, but 3 players for the Bandits rotating on over, and you know, they really, well, it would be a very key round for them. If they can pick this one up, they cement their economy quite nicely and also start to actually have an impact on the Bulls, who, you know, they've won a few rounds in a row. They aren't feeling the economic pressure just yet, but with this win and maybe another one on top of it, there will be an eco and a chance to equalize and start to get ahead for the Bandits. But first, they've really got to focus on this round here. And I did like that the triple rotate to B. They're expecting the players to rotate off after they heard the tour de force was on A. But unfortunately for them, the read has actually come out from the Bulls, who think that there is going to be a stack towards B and are just going to take up middle and try and get into the back of A. The KO goes out. Thomas finds an initial pick. Kazuno does find one with a tour de force coming in clutch. And with only 13 seconds left, they've got to get this spike down.
10 seconds
They
left.
do, but I think they have just about enough space to make it work. That null command will mean that the tour de force is no longer in play from Kazuto. Just as I say that, it's straight back up, and it's in with a no-scope onto Melon. They get squashed,
Beautiful.
and those pieces go scattering everywhere. 4 versus 2.
One
Defenders
enemy
now
remaining.
up twice as many players, and Dice has got to see this one out. Playing from double doors where they got a triple on the previous round. They can't match their efforts this time. Nako finds them out. And once again, we go creeping ever closer to an even scoreline. Neither of these teams can really put a bottle on it, can they, Hanno?
No, I mean, Kazuto there, though, you know, we were just talking about how to step up, and step up he did. I think a kill on the entry, and then the lovely no-scope onto the KO. That, getting unsilenced just a second before that KO came around the corner was very fortunate for him, as he was able to pull the tour de force out just in time to land that no-scope. So Kazuto doing his part to fulfill the round for the Bandits there, and honestly, apart from that second map, you know, this series is shaping out to be a very, very tight one. And I suppose SG Bandits just have that pocket pick of split whenever they want it.
Get out of
But
my way.
Bind almost went to OT, and this game is looking like it could be one that might be with a chance of doing the same as Justice. Good little dash at a swap sides, but will be traded out. Surprised them, playing 2 metal there, with Nako covering that Sky as they walk on up. Thomas droning on out in towards the site. Kazuto with 1. Teleports away and could be looking for some more. Definitely doing a much better job here on the defense now as this chamber. The 4-on-3 retake should be relatively simple to carry out. I don't know if they still have the Viper Wall available, though. I think they might, which would be able to cut off A main and maybe get a spike and a good little dart. Will not tag anyone, I don't believe, but the Viper's Pit has gone down. 4FN with the initial kill. That's the Viper's Pit gone already. Kazuto, though, whiffs the shot on the dice. 3v1. Just the chamber left alive, and Nako jumps up above. The updraft works out well, and they just use the classic to finish that round. And we will be having a tied scoreline again. 10 and 10, double digits for both teams here, Hazza.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, neither of these teams can really get ahead at this point in time, or at least as soon as one of them has an advantage, the other seems to be able to fight a way back in. Looking at the timeline, 3 defusal rounds in a row, so once more, we see that issue of the late round post plant maybe coming up for, you know, either of these sides. I think it was on Bind where the Birmingham Bulls were struggling a little bit in that department, but they were able to just about get it done later on. right now, Nako with that operator in hand, as I believe we are in a technical pause due to maybe some ping issues with the server. Not entirely too sure on the extent of it. I think it's basically just based on what the players have been saying in chat there.
Yep.
But, well, if you're going to pause at any point in time, we have a good point from now to debrief what's going on and what we've seen so far at this point in time. I don't think this really would have come as too much of a surprise for either of us if we found ourselves at 10 apiece on the third map in this upper bracket final, considering the stakes and the caliber of both of these teams. So yeah, going into this one, it looks like all the players are actually going to be disconnecting, and I think we may have to remake the server. So that's not going to be ideal. However, I mean, Hanno, from what we've seen so far, what are you really seeing about this one?
I'm quite excited to see how the rest of this map goes. Obviously, 10 and 10, it can go either way, and it's very dependent upon who can make those clutch plays. 'Cause at this point, there's not that many rounds left, and just pulling out, I mean, Depressed has been one player I think that we need to kind of call out for being huge in some of those rounds, finding 3, 4, multiple times over the course of this series. He's done it on maps where they haven't even managed to pull it on all the way through, but still had a huge impact. And if he just has one of those rounds that can flip the economy, put them at a huge advantage, force the enemy team onto an eco, and then they push through to 13 or, again, OT, whatever it might be. But yeah, hopefully the players will be reconnecting in now, and we should get back on in with the game. But I just want to have a quick to talk about the agents. We talked about how KO could function, and honestly, I think the KO has been doing relatively well. There's been a few times where they've been able to counter that chamber very, very well, which is probably one of the reasons why Kazuto has had such a tough time with that chamber kind of disarm / silence constantly being landed on the defending chamber. But certainly I think it could have more impact. Melon's been doing very, very well to find some kills, but unfortunately they haven't been able to capitalize sometimes off the silences that he gets, and have kind of let the enemy players let that suppression time on out before pushing in. For FN, though, with a lovely headshot to start off this round number 21, a very vital round for the remainder of this game, and gets spotted out, and Thomas will convert the kill. Dice follows one up onto Kazuto, and it's a 4-on-3. The attackers lose a player instantly as Nako finds one from CT spawn. The Aldrome going to go on out trying to find these players. There are 2 on towards site, 1 towards A main. The Viper's been spotted on out and will fall back. Jet knives are available if they want it, as they go for it. And rather than use the operator to retake, they've got the knives. 2 players, they should know from the sounds of that where they both are. Nako jumping on out, wants to find something. The flash is really good, but they get flashed in return from the sky. Deviates gets one, Depressed gets another. Do they know where this chamber is? They must guess they're towards aiming, but they've got to get the spike defused. Dice gets one, Dice teleports away, and there's no time as Dice finishes off that round with a triple kill and a wonderful 1v2 clutch there to put their team 11-10 up. And the Birmingham Bulls retake the lead after being equalized with 3 rounds in a row from the Bandits. It's a worrying one.
Yeah, I mean, when the scoreline ties itself up, it has to eventually roll itself in either of the sides' favor, and it will be the Birmingham Bulls that take that advantage now after SG Bandits had worked their way back. It has to be said, it is some somewhat unfortunate timing there with the server disconnects. I believe it was something on Riot Games' end that meant that happened, but thankfully it is resolved. Hopefully these players can find the mental resolve as well to keep pushing on now that they are at a disadvantage. Aldrone will come through to try and clear these players, and well, Dice does get found out. Will use the rendezvous to reposition themselves, and there are 3 Birmingham Bulls players towards this side of the map. That Spike, once again, not really committed towards the same kind of area. It's a very default strategy that they're adopting here. There is a lot of space in towards mid that could go punished, potentially, if there were to be a push come through, but, well, Kazuto only needs one bullet. That's why they call them chamber. Just like that, it leaves and enters the head of Thomas. And just like that, we are at a 4 versus 5. First blood goes the way of the defending side, surprisingly. And yeah, they have to look to try and make this execute work, while all the while they're losing players.
30
Yeah,
seconds
Deviate's
left.
done very, very well to find that kill on over towards A, and the spike now going to have to kind of go through that double doors area. There are now 3 players ready to repel this. Well, it's not really an execute. They're just walking onto the site. Dice finds one. Are they ready
10 seconds left.
for the Sky in A main? I don't think they will be, as Flip should get dropped here for FN on the rotate. There we go. Deviate's dropped Flip, and the spike planter dead. I'm Depressed finds the other. And it will be going 11-11, and something tells me this game might be going the distance, Hazza, as we've got at least 2 more rounds, if not overtime, which, frankly, for the upper bracket final, you would expect nothing less.
I mean, you certainly wouldn't. I said it moments ago. Oh, 10-10, we wouldn't have maybe been too surprised to find ourselves in this situation. 11-11 reads the score, funnily enough, and, well, both of these teams now have one opportunity to win it in regulation. Whoever wins this one puts themselves at a great advantage to see things out here and now. With the attacking side of Birmingham Bulls on that low buy, you have to say that it shifts in the favor of SG Bandits, and what can they do? Deviates will open things up, finds that first one onto Dice, and it's just 4FN in the backside to deal with this. They have the Phantom in hand, and they're going up against Pistols and Spectres, but Justice has done due diligence there. That's another player dropped, and it's a familiar situation. 4v4 retake drops to the 4 versus 3. Those bolts from the Hunter's Fury don't do much to pit damage onto these players, but look at the flank
from Thomas.
Not only are they behind these players, they have a Hunter's Fury to maybe put to work as well, but none of the shots connect. They whiff at the key moment, and it's the sober pick on the opposite side of I'm Depressed that chains a couple headshots. And just like that, 12 rounds on the board for SG Bandits and Birmingham Bulls. That's a crushing one to take so late on. 5 defusals out of the last 6 rounds.
My goodness.
Hano.
That is quite amazing. And to add to that as well, I think the Bulls made the right play last round going with the half buy. And they got so close. They went with the half buy to make sure that they can, try and push for overtime here. But they still got so close to winning the round. And Thomas, who's been such a key player for their team, playing that support role so effectively at the critical moment, as you called live during the whiff, just couldn't find the pick. It was a beautiful flank, and it just couldn't work out. And honestly, either of these teams is worthy of being in that final. With how close these games are, there's barely a distinction between the two at this point.
I was just going to say, look at the HP on 4FN. Went for a really aggressive peak and nearly got caught in a crossfire early on. Very overzealous from them, and that may yet come back to bite them. There will be a heal from Deviates if they have safe passage towards the site, but they want to take this fight, and they're going to lose out. Dice takes them down, and this is effectively a 5 versus 3. Not only that, the spike is yet to be committed, and it may yet make its way on over towards A. Only one player stands there, Kazuto. We've yet to see too much from them in this map, but this would be the perfect opportunity for them to change things around. Sat in the pocket, looks like that's where the spike may go, but it is just a guessing game at this point, Hano.
It's a good gamble.
Because they've not decided, and yeah, with 30 seconds left on the clock, it is going to be A, and the gamble comes through for the defending side. The wall is there as well to give away that position. Null Command will follow it as well.
Kazuto's got to go huge. He's in the corner. He gets one. Is that enough? As there's another player trying to push on through the site. There's Snako with one, gets responded out. The KO, they're going to try and revive him. Those two players aren't going to be able to deny it. It's now a 4-on-2. It's so awkward. SG, they could, if they win out this 2v4 clutch, they could be going to the finals. But it's looking so much more likely that we are going to be going to overtime. Depressed here. He's had some insane moments. Oh, there we go. 4FM with like 2 HP is still able to find one. But there's 3 more to get. Justice ults and updrafts and finds the kill, and we will be going to overtime. 24 rounds plus 2 more maps was not enough time to figure out who the better team is. We've got to go an extra 2 rounds minimum, and I mean, who knows? There's no maximum, so we could be here till 4 AM.
We really could. I mean, in that situation, 4FN gets 1 towards double doors, right? And once they've done that, the remaining players are directly in front of them. There's 3 all there waiting for this retake to happen, but no, can't quite get it, and we will get forced all the way to overtime. 5 rifles on the board for either side, 3 phantoms picked up for the defenders, so they're certainly wanting to go for these spray downs, and you see that, you know, with that defender's side. Also, it has to be mentioned, those are the 3 lowest players on the side, so maybe Phantom isn't the play, but let's not read into it too much. It's going to be a B execute. 5 players stacked up, posturing their way towards this side of the map. The Trailblazer will be that first entry in. Going to get cancelled by the 0-point knife. It will also be a fragment grenade to slow things down. This KO utility reigns supreme for the time being. And how much time do these players have to think about a commitment here? Great combination of utility. Depressed finds the double off the back of that vulnerability from the snakebite. Flip's already out through the smoke. They aren't able to find it. Depressed with the triple. And it's looking like advantage. SG Bandits. Dice now. 1 versus 2. For the 1 versus 3, the Hunter's Fury will flush them out. It's a tough situation. And they've got to find both. Crossfire's established. Post-plant situation. Recon dart even.
Oh no, you wish!
That one looks like a freebie. But it's not going to be. And it's completely the other way around. Recon dart once again. So huge on that impact. I'm depressed. Wins that round solely on their shoulders, I feel.
Dice was given a free kill by 4FN. They're completely looking the wrong way, not expecting that player to be so close after that Hunter's Fury was deployed, thinking that they'd wrap around towards that elbow, but it wasn't the case. And Device, underneath the pressure, the intense scrutiny of the moment, just couldn't get that spray on point. And as you say, SG Bandits with the advantage, they just need to pick up this defending round here, which, to be honest, they've got a good chance at it. That KO knife sent out very early to try and get some early information on who might be playing towards that A site, and if any aggression was coming out, which there was not. Depressed will find one, tags, and now knows exactly where that chamber's gone. 4FN actually going to take this opportunity here, Hazza, to get super aggressive, and I love this play from him.
Yeah, and it's also just going to sit right on the valence of that trademark, so they won't get spotted out. However, things are going down on the other side of the map. Deviates able to win that one out on Melon. 4 versus 4. And speaking of 4FN has found that one onto Dice. Now, in the post plant, we saw how good those retakes were before. Now they're really going to struggle. Will they even get a plant down to try and defuse it? Birmingham Bulls are on the back foot. And as we visit the golden beaches of Breeze, it seems like the sandcastle they built on map 1 is crumbling in their hands. I'm Depressed finds that one. Birmingham Bulls get reverse sweeped by SG Bandits, who pick this one up and secure their place in the grand finals.
SG Bandits, they did it before in a best of 1. It took them an overtime to do it, or a couple, sorry, 16-14. It took them back in the round robin format, and they've done it again here. They did drop a map to Birmingham Bulls, but they do manage to secure the series. And frankly, I've got to say that these two teams so closely matched. Split was a little bit, there was clearly a gap, but certainly they're on Bind, and even again they're on Breeze. These teams just trading round for round, playing so well. Huge plays from almost every single player on these teams throughout this series. Such a strong roster for both sides of Valorant talent I want to say. And frankly, I will not be surprised if we see the Birmingham Bulls, not the Brighton Bulls. God, don't think that's even a team. The Birmingham Bulls make it through that lower bracket because they certainly look very competitive. And I wonder if the lower brackets got anything to match them. As you can see there, we have got the information from the other two games. I think Noble Knots, yes, lost to UCL Team S, and Clark Kent beat Imperial College Liam. So those two teams will be playing sometime soon. And then next Thursday, I believe it'll be the Birmingham Bulls playing the winner of that game for the last spot in finals.
And I mean, if it is a situation where UCL progress, then it will be a rematch of that final scenario we saw before. Clark Kent as well, another very able side. So the four teams left in the competition, other than SG Bandits having already locked their place in, there's three here that could certainly make it to that grand finals.
Yes.
And then whoever ends up winning it really is anybody's guess. I suppose Birmingham Bulls, if they were to make it that distance, SG Bandits already having the upper hand. Maybe if things just do go close and end up being that status quo that we see between the two sides, then, you know, SG Bandits do have that advantage, and it is a well-deserved advantage coming out of this one, especially after that performance on Split. You maybe think there are some slight gaps in the map pool there, but a stellar performance from both sides. And, well, this tournament just keeps on delivering and has plenty more still in store for us.
Yeah, obviously the tournament is coming to a close, but you will have to make sure, everyone, that you come back for next week when that lower bracket final will be streamed. And also the week after when the grand finals will be on broadcast. Two games you definitely don't want to miss, because with all the talent and the teams and how well these games went tonight, in terms of the performance from the teams, I'm sure they will all be very, very exciting. And Hazard, I think we've both had a wonderful time Cars game. I think you'll agree, and I think all that remains for us to say is to thank the sponsors and the partners of this event, which obviously is Intel and Twitch Student. And also thank all our wonderful production and the players for being such good sports and putting on such a great show today. And honestly, it has been a pleasure. I look forward to seeing which of those three teams makes it through the lower bracket into those finals. Any final words, Hazard, before we depart this great best of three tonight?
I mean, I'm lost for words, to be honest. I think all of the words have been used up to describe what has been an enthralling series thus far. And yeah, with its conclusion, SG Bandits take that advantage into the grand finals in 2 weeks' time. I'm very looking forward to both of those lower bracket finals and then the grand finals that we have coming up. And, well, a pleasure to cast with you once again, Hanno. It's taken some time, but it was worth the wait, and I'm sure that the audience enjoyed it as well. So, yeah, those are my closing thoughts. And I believe, without further ado, that's us done for the evening.
Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we are over and out. See you next Thursday.
I said I wanna have good times, good times. Find my friends again, and